Chapter 120, Silver-Haired Girl. Yunshi stopped, looking at the place the voice came from. Are there other people on the island? Yes, it is possible. Although Yunshi had only found these female swordsmen on the island through his seeds, but it was possible that other people on the ship, White Lotus, also drifted to this island. After all, White Lotus carried over 1,000 of people. Except for the twin witches and Hua, who he had confirmed that weren't on this island, it was very likely that there were other survivors here. Xiao Chao, let's go to save her. Since he had already saved 37 people, then there was no reason for him not to save more. Ah! Xiao Chao nodded, but her eyes looked very vigilant. Soon after, Yunshi followed the voice and found the only survivor apart from the 37 female swordsmen. Yunshi looked at the girl with a weird look, because the girl was gingerly hiding on a tree, and the monsters around the tree were several little animals Yunshi was very familiar with, squirrels. Xiao Chao grasped Yunshi's hands, motioning him to wait for a while. Don't misunderstand. She was in fear of the several little animals, who looked not dangerous at all and just surrounded the tree with curiosity. She was on guard against the girl, who should be their safe target at first. This was the same reason why Yunshi stopped. Well, who are you? Yunshi asked with a careful look. That was a girl whose clothes looked very exotic. No people in the whole Eastern God's domain would wear like that. She wore a big silver headwear on her head, which looked like a pair of silver bunny ears. 3 silver blue gems were studded on her forehead and her ears. Yunshi saw a big necklace on her neck, which said number 001 on it. He could saw a broken chain that was still hanging on it. Not only her neck. Her shoulders, arms and waist were all constrained with similar restraints, which made her look like a prisoner who just escaped from the jail. In addition to these restraints, she only wore a dress which was as thin as a nightclothes. She didn't even wear shoes. Her naked feet were restricted by a pair of cold fetters. Maybe she felt cold, her cute toes curled like cat's paws. She looked shy and cute. Her translucent legs were smooth and soft. Yunshi looked down and noticed her feet, which were so perfect and flawless. Her 5 toes curled, forming 4 slightly bent curves, as if they were 5 flower buds in early puberty. Under her strange, big silver headwear, her face looked as delicate as a cute porcelain doll. Plus her innocent eyes and timid expression, she was as lovely as a timid rabbit. Yunshi noticed that there was a blue trace in the middle of her chest. It was a condensed ice crystal, which shouldn't have appeared in this season. Ooh! Help! The girl didn't see Yunshi and Xiao Chao. She covered her head in her hands, crouching like a hedgehog on the tree. Yunshi looked at the small tree, which was about 2 meters tall and was shaking due to the girl's weight and action, then looked at the several squirrels, who were merrily jumping up and licking the girl's soles. Well, did she really need help? That's strange, Xiao Chao murmured. Yes, that was too strange. Yunshi was sure that this girl wasn't one of Sword Palace's candidates. Her exotic clothes and ruby-like eyes were too conspicuous. He would have noticed her if she was on the ship. Yunshi didn't think that she was a native. In his view, her headwear should be very valuable. Probably it wouldn't be cheaper than White Lotus's star and moon's ring. Besides, the ice blue trace on her chest was also suspicious. This was a tropical island, but it was still frozen here. It couldn't be something ordinary. Although Yunshi couldn't judge her power with his naked eyes, however, he didn't think that the several squirrels, who actually could do no harm to her and seemingly just wanted to play with her, would be a threat to her. Even if a 3-year-old child wouldn't be scared by squirrels. Why was she so scared? Ooh! Help me! That's tickling. What monsters they are! Terrible! The silver-haired girl finally noticed Yunshi and Xiao Chao. She gazed at them with a pathetic look. Sigh. Finally, Yunshi couldn't bear to see girls' tears. He whistled and tapped the ground with his feet. Hiss. The squirrels happily ran to Yunshi. They were not afraid of human at all. Yunshi picked off several wild fruits from the tree. The several squirrels joyfully ate them and ran away. Hoo! They are finally gone. After seeing the squirrels leaving, the silver-haired girl finally had the guts to climb down the tree. They are just squirrels. You don't need to be afraid of them, Yunshi comforted her, but still didn't relax his vigilance, because he didn't see a speck of dust on her body. No person would be still spotless after falling from the sky. Huayu broke her bones and Xiao Chao lost her clothes. If the silver-haired girl fell down from the ship, she couldn't be unscathed. No, no, no. They are horrible demons. They got in my dress, did this thing and that thing to me. Ho ho. They were bullying me. The silver-haired alleged these squirrels' crimes with tears in her eyes. They are just squirrels. Yunshi was dumb and didn't know how to comment her words. Were you a princess, living like a flower in the greenhouse in your life? Why are you so innocent and timid? However, judging from her headwear, probably she was really a princess. This headwear, was she from Western God's domain? Thank you. I'm Moo. Can you tell me where I am? Chapter 121, Abandoned Child, Where? Don't you know where you are? Yunshi looked at the silver-haired girl peculiarly. Her name was Moo. How could she be so naive? How could her parents allow such an innocent girl to leave her home alone? She needed a team of guards. I don't know. My head aches. I forget many things, Moo said. She held her silver, bunny ears-like headwear with a troubled look. I remember that I was looking for my papa, but something happened on the halfway and I fell down. After I woke up, I was already on this island. Poor girl. Xiao Chao relaxed her vigilance. She realized that Moo was harmless. Her threat degree wouldn't even be higher than a squirrel. Did you lost touch with your father? Yunshi's heart melted after seeing her worried look. Her worry was from the bottom of her heart. That couldn't be a disguise. Besides, Yunshi didn't think that this girl knew the meaning of disguise. Probably her head was hurt and forgot many common senses, for she didn't even know what the squirrels were. No. I'm looking for my papa, but we didn't lose touch with each other. Mom told me that papa abandoned us when I was very young. I need to find him after I grow up. Moo said and proudly puffed out her chest, but the truth contained in her words was really poignant. Who are Moo's father? How dare you to abandon such a cute child? Don't you have a heart? And Moo's mother too. Why did you take such a little girl out the door? I know you want to see your husband again, but don't you know that the world is too dangerous to your daughter? Where is your mom? Yunshi looked around, trying to find where Moo's mom was. I left home alone, because mom said that I could leave now. Moo blinked and told Yunshi the startling fact. What? You are too young. How could you leave home alone? Yunshi opened his eyes wide with a flabbergasted look. What a bad mother. Weren't you afraid that your child would be kidnapped? Judging from her silk-like clothes and her silver headwear, she must be from a rich family. Yunshi wouldn't be surprised if she said that she was a princess. How could such a princess-like girl leave home alone? Come here, little girl. Let's take you to a safe place. Yunshi stretched out his hands and softly held Moo in his arms. She wasn't Xiao Chao, who could walk in the forest with her naked feet as easily as through walking upon a level road. May, be careful. Although Xiao Chao had relaxed her vigilance, she still looked at Moo with doubt, for she felt that something was wrong. Don't worry. She is just a harmless child, Yunshi said and put his seed into Mumu's thin body. His seed detected the girl's inside and found that her true strength was feeble and pathetic, just like what she looked like. Warm, delicious, hum. I'm sleepy. After having Yunshi's seed, Mumu gently stretched herself and slept in Yunshi's arms. Yunshi's heart melted as he gazed at her angel-like face. He didn't know the reason, but when he looked at her, he felt an indescribable affinity with her. He naturally knew that she wasn't dangerous and he had to protect her. Even her appearance was so sudden and mysterious. No. I don't mean that. Xiao Chao didn't know how to describe her heart of now. Was it hostility? To Xiao Chao, this was a very strange feeling. It was obviously that she liked to have friends. One person alone and two people together were two totally different situations. Sharing your happiness with your friend, the happiness would be doubled. Sharing your sadness with your friend, your sadness would be reduced to 1 second. It was always so happy when she stayed together with Mei. However, unlike Hua Yu or other female swordsmen, when Xiao Chao saw the girl, she suddenly had a foreboding that her Mei would be taken away. The girl named Mumu had a natural spiritual attraction, catching her eyes like a magnet. Maybe Mumu didn't do it by intention and that was her natural talent. But, she is my enemy. Xiao Chao took a deep breath, remembering the words her new friends told her. You can only have one best friend. If she is your only one, don't let her go. Become her most important person. Love. Cough, for your sacred friendship, don't lose. Puff, puff. Xiao Chao patted her own face. She gazed at Mei and Mumu in Mei's arms with a determined look. Xiao Chao won't lose. Puff, puff. As Xiao Chao and Yunshi returned, the girls were clumsily putting up tents on the platform. The female swordsman immediately saw them. Mei, Xiao Chao, welcome back. Great. Now everybody is here. No one is less. What a miracle. Mei found everyone. After their hearty welcome, they found the little angel who was sleeping in Yunshi's arms. Her silver hair, which obviously didn't belong to Eastern God's domain, and her snow white, were too eye-catching. Ah! Who is this child? Was she on White Lotus? Why don't I remember her? Mei, where did you find her? Yunshi told them Mumu's story. After that, everyone looked at Mumu with compassion. Ooh! She is so young, but she has the guts to look for her father alone. That man who abandoned his wife and Mumu must be a bastard. How could he abandon such a cute child? He is really a scum. The girl's mom must be a beauty. How can any man have the heart to abandon them? I can't understand that. Yes, yes. What a heartless bastard her father is. Yunshi had the same feeling. Any people who dared to do such a thing would be cursed with bad luck during their lives. Ah. Mumu was awakened. She slowly opened her eyes, and her ruby-like big eyes made the girl scream. She is so cute. No. Her appearance is too dangerous to my heart. If I can have a child like her, I can die without anything to regret. Hi, is your name Mumu? Don't worry. There are no bad men here, only beautiful big sisters. Humph. There is no good man ever living in this world. They should die. Well. Yunshi embarrassedly looked at himself. What an unexpected allegation. Chapter 122, Hunger Crisis. After the storm, the originally safe platform was muddy now. Fortunately, Xiao Chao's mysterious friend had dispelled the storm, otherwise, the situation would have been worse. Due to the impact from when they had fallen from the sky, almost everyone's clothes were tattered. The girls often unintentionally exposed their skin to the air, making Yunshi feel pretty embarrassed and awkward. Fortunately, the island had a tropical rainforest climate. Even during the night, the weather wasn't cold, they could endure it. However, there was something they couldn't endure with their will. Hoa! We are out of food. I'm hungry. What should we do? Can we go to the forest to look for wild fruits? After surviving the largest crisis in their lives, other than Xiao Chao who had eaten her fill with her friends, the other girls' stomachs were growling. Even Hua Yu also showed a helpless look. Let me prepare dinner, Yunshi said. As the only baker, incidentally, he was a third-ranked baker, amongst these female swordsmen, Yunshi had to stand up. When Yunshi had searched for the girls along the coast, he had thought about the problems they may face in the coming days. He had collected a lot of goods and materials from the broken ship and stocked them in a place not far away. He hadn't expected that a tropical storm would come, but there was a distance between the coast and the place he had stashed those goods. In that case, those goods shouldn't have been damaged too much. Conversely, the storm washed more materials up onto the shore that had dropped from White Lotus. May, you are great. I'm saved. I thought that I would starve to death. I know nothing about how to survive in the wild. Several noble female swordsmen let out a sigh of relief at the same time. We'd better not eat wild fruits because none of us know them. May, let's go carry the goods you found, Hua Yu said. Her charisma reassured the girls. Okay. Mumu, be good, Yunshi said and touched Mumu's head. His fingertips slipped through her silver headband, and he felt a smooth and cold sensation. Yunshi had never seen such material before. It was like a kind of metal, but also like gemstone. Undoubtedly, it was a priceless treasure. Ah. May's smell is agreeable. You're not a bad person. Mumu sniffed, then stood on her toes and softly kissed Yunshi's face. Mumu likes sweet, soft food. It's better if it tastes like cream. All children liked sweet food. Yunshi remembered that Hua Hua, Alphyllis, Milei, and Yili were not an exception. Fortunately, Yunshi knew that there was something in the goods he had collected that met all the requirements of sweet, soft, and creamy. 2 hours later, Yunshi, Hua Yu, Xiao Chao and a few other girls smoothly brought back several sealed big boxes from the place where Yunshi had stashed the goods. Wow, White Lotus really had everything. Yunshi identified the goods in the boxes from their inventories. As White Lotus Sword Domain's ultimate weapon, the food White Lotus stocked was sufficient to let 3,000 people eat for 100 days. There was a special freezing storeroom in the ship that could retain the freshness of vegetables for 100 days, and potatoes for a whole year, not to mention a variety of meat. Yunshi was a third-ranked baker. Well, actually this was a pretty rare career. Due to this, he had talked with the head chef on the ship. He knew about the consumption of materials on the giant ship from the head chef. Normally, White Lotus had 1,000 sailors and passengers. It needed tons of meat, 100,000 potatoes, countless loaves of bread, and fresh milk every month. The ship also stocked a great amount of emergency rations as the last reserve. When necessary, they were enough to support the ship battling in the air for 100 days. Moreover, all the goods and materials were sealed in sealing boxes which were waterproof and fireproof, in accordance with the war standard. This really helped them a lot. Flour, eggs, and assembled simple cookware. No wonder it is a military reserve box. Yunshi tore off the sealing tape and opened the box. At first sight, his eyes were caught by the snow-white flour and eggs that were perfectly placed on cushions. With these two raw materials, he could play his role as a third-ranked baker now. Yunshi was a third-ranked baker, but that didn't mean he only knew how to make bread. Yunshi chose this career simply because he liked to make bread. In fact, Yunshi was well versed in all kinds of household duties. He had learned to cook since he was 6 years old, and the breads he made always let Hua Hua, Phyllis, Miley, and Yili show bright smiles on their faces. Now that Yunshi came to think of it, he thought that perhaps his childhood sweetheart smiles were the most important reason why he had absorbed himself in making bread. He adroitly selected the best flour, then mixed it with yeast, egg wash, and milk, stirring it attentively. His movements were as smooth as floating clouds in flowing water. The girls were all dumbfounded, for none of them had made bread before. Well, this weight should be enough. Yunshi estimated the weight of the flour, thinking that it was enough to make about 40 buns and fresh fruit salads. He started to knead the dough and called Xiao Chao to help him. He let Xiao Chao help him because she had experience in cooking. At least, she was far better than these noble girls. Is the bread done yet? I'm hungry. I can even eat raw flour. Vegetables. Vegetables. I can eat raw vegetables. Xiao Chao, be quick. I'm starving to death. These girls had never been so hungry in their lives. They gazed at Yunshi and Xiao Chao with a pathetic look. The fresh fruit salads are done. You can eat them to whet your appetites. Yunshi ordered Xiao Chao to send the diced fruits to them. Under these girls' hungry eyes, he had to increase the raw materials he had prepared for making bread. Maybe he needed to make 60 buns to satisfy their stomachs. About 30 minutes later, Yunshi put 60 doughs into the simple ovens. The girls had just finished eating the fruit salads at this time, but that didn't fill their bellies at all. They felt even hungrier. After all, fruits wouldn't fill their empty stomachs. They were used to whet their appetites. Please wait for a while. Looking at their eyes, Yunshi felt as if he was surrounded by a group of hungry wolves now, and as the smell of baking bread spread in the air, the hungry wolves' eyes were becoming more and more green. Chapter 123, Yunshi's bread in the ovens. The doughs Yunshi made by mixing flour with egg wash were sending out tempting smells. Goo! 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 As if they were frogs in a rice field during summer, the girls' stomachs were growling, unladylike at all. This was their lives' instinct. They were all allured by the wonderful smell of freshly baked buns. Don't worry, be patient. I have made 60 buns. You'll all get one. Yunshi looked at these girls, feeling stressed in his heart. Mei really knows everything. Hua Yu sighed. Mei not only had perfect sword skill, but also had wonderful cooking skill. Hua Yu wanted to have such a maid too. If Mei wasn't Hua Hua's maid, she wouldn't hesitate to use her family's privilege to obtain her. Where else could she find another black-haired maid who knew how to cook, battle and warm her bed? Yes. These buns can't be normal. I can smell that. Is this the skill called a sun hand? That's a culinary arts that can bring out the raw materials' full advantages by controlling the heat. I know. That's a skill only third-ranked pastry chefs can use. It requires very high talent. Several noble girls immediately guessed Yunshi's cooking rank. After all, no one could play tricks at this point. They are almost ready. Yunshi placidly changed the topic. He didn't want to expose his true identity. Ding! 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 There were a row of ovens. The first several ovens opened automatically, exposing the sweet, golden buns inside them to the air. Considering that everyone was very hungry now, Yunshi chose to make toast with a few black raisins as embellishment. Incidentally, they were also one of the main and the most popular products at Yunshi's bakery. Awu! Awu! Yummy! Why had I never eaten such delicious toast before? Hoa! My life will lack the means if I can't eat maize toast again. The girls bit a small piece of toast in their mouths and instantly, a gust of a strange but wonderful flavor spread inside their mouths. That was the perfect result after mixing wheat flour with milk and egg wash. The baked toasts were soft and warm. With the raisins' crunchy taste, the girls' eyes were moist when they ate the toasts. That was the sun's taste. They had only eaten a few fruits before that hadn't filled their stomachs, but had made them feel even hungrier. To them, they felt that they were in heaven at this moment. Ding! Another row of ovens opened. The buns in these ovens were pineapple buns, the choicest goods amongst all the buns and the sweetest buns which were popular amongst young girls. Pineapple buns. Great! I like pineapple buns. May! You're amazing! Before they finished eating their toast, some girls had eagerly taken away the freshly baked pineapple buns and gulped. Compared to toast, the pineapple buns fit these girls' flavor much more. After their stomachs were slightly filled, pineapple buns were their favorite choice. The last was Yunshi's masterpiece, his trump card which was usually used to feed his strongest childhood sweetheart in the past, butter bread. Come here, Moo. This is the butter bread you wanted. Yunshi opened the last 3 ovens, then waved his hand to the silver-haired girl, who was putting a thick toast and a yellow pineapple bun in her mouth at the same time. Awu! Awu! Moo had a thin body, but her appetite was incredible. Normally, a brick-shaped toast was enough to fill a girl's stomach, but she had eaten 3 toasts and 10 pineapple buns in the twinkling of an eye. Yunshi was very confused about how her thin body could consume so much food. Awu! At the first second Moo ate Yunshi's butter bread, she showed a surprised and happy look on her face. She moaned with satisfaction on her white, small face, as if she was going to cry with joy. Take it easy. There are still plenty raw materials. I will make as many types of bread as I can to fill your belly. Yunshi gently patted her back. He thought that she was choked. Whoa! It's delicious. It's the best food I have eaten. Moo said with a look of anguish, when I was young, I was only allowed to eat crystals. These crystals were too hard. It took me a lot of time to digest them. But Mom said that I wouldn't become stronger if I refused to eat these crystals. If I want to find my father, I have to eat a lot of crystals. They really gorged me with crystals. I never thought that there was such delicious food in the world. Crystal. Was it edible? Could it be a local food from a country I don't know? Yunshi feed Moo the butter bread and felt puzzled in his heart. Yummy. Xiao Chao picked up a piece of butter bread, putting it into her mouth bit by bit. She was so careful, didn't even let a crumb of bread drop on the ground. Children who grow up in families which are short of money are better prepared to deal with the problems of adult life than children who are brought up by wealthy parents. The staple food in her village was black steamed bread. The bread was made with fine flour and was already a luxury food in the villagers' eyes, not to mention the bread made by a third-ranked baker. May, do you want to join my family? This time, even Hua couldn't stop Hua Yu's eyes from turning green with jealousy. Why was May's bread so delicious? All she used were the reserved materials from White Lotus, and the tools she used to make bread were just some simple, temporary cookers. How could she make such fantastic bread under such circumstances? Look! These girls who had eaten May's butter bread were all showing a look of ecstasy on their faces. Their tongues and hearts were all enraptured by the delicate flavor. I'm not that good. It should be because the raw materials are good. I can't do so well every time. Yunshi also felt surprised in his heart. He had stopped making bread for many days. Why were his hands still as good as before? He even felt that his rank as a baker was going to upgrade. Even though cooks couldn't fight, a fourth-ranked cook, was also recognized as a hero-ranked person. He heard that once a cook reached the fourth rank, the food the cook made would contain incredible power. All the recipes mortals knew weren't higher than the third rank, and a person who could make third-ranked food already deserved to be called master. Even though a fourth-ranked cook couldn't be compared to a fourth-ranked swordsman, it was still a great honor, which meant that he had stepped into a higher realm and become a legend. Would I not become a hero-ranked swordsman first but become a hero-ranked baker in advance? Chapter 124, Enemies Forever. No one would deny that Yunshi's handmade bread was one of the best foods in the world, from both the meaning of to fill the belly and to satisfy the desire of mouth. Even Huayu, who was born an aristocratic miss and had lived an extravagant life since her childhood, was full of praise for Yunshi's bread. In that case, there was a problem. Gee. Mumu looked at the last piece of butter bread with desire. She licked her lips and grasped Yunshi's hand, acting like a spoiled child. Ah. Xiao Chao hurriedly finished eating her piece of butter bread and stood up, not even wiping off the white cream on her lips. No more butter bread. Huayu drew out her silk scarf. She gracefully wiped off the white cream from the corners of her mouth and also gazed at the last butter bread. Well, undoubtedly, the owner of the last piece of butter bread was Yunshi. He held it in his hand, speechlessly looking at the three girls around him. Mumu was still a child, so her behavior was understandable. But why were Xiao Chao and Huayu also looking at him with longing and strong hints in their eyes? Xiao Chao, aren't you a girl who doesn't mind your food's taste and will feel satisfied as long as the food can fill your belly? Huayu, your family should have much better tasting food than my butter bread. Why are you looking at me like that? I'm hungry, too. Zizi. Xiao Chao and Huayu ignored Mumu, who was shaking Yunshi's hand. They looked at each other like diamond striking diamond. Well, I still want it, Xiao Chao sighed. She wiped off the cream from her mouth, then stood up and claimed, May's last piece of butter bread is mine. What a coincidence. I think so too. Huayu also stood up. With her action, her two mountains, which were wrapped by bandages on her chest and half exposed to the air, made Yunshi almost expose his true identity in an unmentionable method. The best should belong to the strongest leader. Xiao Chao moved her hands and legs, warming up her body. Her leaf-made clothes were fit for battle and wouldn't impede her motions at all. I agree with you. It's the time to decide who is the leader again. Otherwise, May will be bothered. Huayu used new bandages to bind her half-exposed breasts again. With the help of her bloodline, the wounds on her ribs had already recovered at a speed that was way faster than her estimation. Not only so, after seeing that terrible presence, her white gold rose bloodline had some unknown new changes. Huayu didn't know the reason why, but she guessed that it was due to May. Hence, let's start the second round of duel. Xiao Chao didn't know too much about noble families' rules. As a girl from a small village, she trusted in her strength more than anyone. Oh, big sisters are going to fight again. Who will be the winner? I guess it will be big sister Huayu. No, Xiao Chao isn't inferior to Huayu. If she had a better weapon, she wouldn't be defeated so easily. Yes. I think that their winning percentage is half to half. After the girls saw that Huayu and Xiao Chao were going to fight again, regardless of the reason, their duel had naturally drawn everyone's attention. As the noble girl's representative, Huayu's leadership and prestige were recognized by all the female swordsmen in the group. As the civilian girl's representative, Xiao Chao learned perfect sword skills by practicing on her own. She was respected by all the female swordsmen in the group. This female swordsman group centered around Mei as its core, formed imperceptibly by Huayu and Xiao Chao. Huayu's natural noble style and noble golden hair let everybody accept her leadership. However, Xiao Chao's sword skill that was self-taught also shocked their hearts and made them admire her. The two people stood for two different styles. The white gold rose. The tough little grass. Hua Yu had won the first battle, and this laid the foundation for her leadership within the female swordsman group. But now, the second round battle was going to start. Xiao Chao threw down the challenge to the current leader, Hua Yu, as a brave challenger. Don't fight. If you want to eat butter bread, I can immediately make more now. Yunxi looked at Xiao Chao and Hua Yu with a dumbfounded look. He didn't expect that they were going to duel simply because of a piece of butter bread. No. That's not the point, Xiao Chao said and shook her head. Yes. This is a duel between us girls. Hua Yu said with a serious and holy look. For bread. Let's fight. As if their battle from the entrance test had reappeared again, Hua Yu was still holding her gorgeous white gold crossed sword in her hand. Xiao Chao was still holding an iron sword that was reforged by using the fragments of her broken sword. Compared to their last battle, there was still a great gap between their weapons. However, Xiao Chao's sword wouldn't be broken so easily again. The reforged black iron sword was much heavier and harder because it had been mixed with more hard materials. I know. You have reached the third rank. Hua Yu took a deep breath. Her eyes instantly become clear and pure. She had disregarded all her distracting thoughts. Xiao Chao wasn't a rival she could let her guard down against. If she wanted to win, she must do her best. The same as you, Xiao Chao said. She had figured out Hua Yu's true strength, only a step away from reaching the peak of the third rank. They knew each other very well, as if there was an invisible string linking them, making them inseparable. Of course, not only them, all the members of the female swordsman group, including Mumu, had the same feeling in their hearts. They were on the same invisible web, linking their souls and blood through one invisible thread after another, and at the center of that web was the mysterious black-haired girl. Xiao Chao and Hua Yu were like a binary star system, closely rotating around the center of the web. They were beautiful, strong, healthy, and energetic, both having the same great talent. This was an inevitable battle between them. Maize bread is mine. No way. I was first to claim it. With a glint and flash of their swords, their battle started. That was a sword song, gorgeous and beautiful. It not only symbolized their youth and friendship, but also symbolized their envy and glory. The heavy white gold crossed sword cut and slashed against the austere black iron sword again and again, generating dazzling sparks between them. Hua Yu's holy crossed sword skill was one of the most direct sword skills. In Hua Yu's hand, her sword skill was not only gorgeous, but also powerful. In contrast, Xiao Chao's sword skill had become tougher with the sea's boundless artistic conception in it. It had reduced a little hardness, but also had increased a little softness at the same time. Chapter 125, Flying Swallow and Flying Swallow. Yunxi felt the wills in Xiao Chao and Hua Yu's eyes. He stopped himself from trying to stop them. From their seeds, he felt their growth. Even if this was just a joke-like duel, it had a special meaning to both of them. They regarded each other as their lifetime enemy, so they tried their best to show their strengths to each other. At this moment, they were so beautiful and bright. Crossed sword. Hua Yu lifted her white gold crossed sword, showing the sword skill which she had used to block Yunxi's "The Swallow Returns" in the entrance test again. Xiao Chao raised her black iron sword. She was suppressed by Hua Yu's crossed sword from the beginning. Now, she started her counterattack. This was also the first time that Yunxi and all the other girls saw Xiao Chao's full assault. This time, Xiao Chao didn't need to worry if her weapon would break. Her sword skill finally showed its powerful side. That was a flashing sword. This was what others thought after they saw Xiao Chao's sword. Apparently, even it had been reforged and wouldn't be broken by the white gold crossed sword easily, it was still a rough black iron sword. However, Xiao Chao's every single brandish was like a streak of light, drawing everyone's attention. That was a streak of dangerous, fatal light cast by Xiao Chao's tough will, for overcoming adversity and surviving in the world. That was Xiao Chao's mortal sword, perfect. Comparatively, Hua Yu's holy crossed sword, which also reached the perfect stage, was suppressed by Xiao Chao's mortal sword. Other than Yun Shi, no one had seen their attacks and defenses clearly. Xiao Chao and Hua Yu's sword skills were beyond their understanding. Their battle was as gorgeous as a sword dance. The other girls' eyes couldn't take it all in, and all they could do was tremble with excitement. They were obviously fighting with their full strength, not showing even a bit of mercy to each other at all. Only at this moment could one really find out the difference between their sword skills. Hua Yu's holy crossed sword was derived from the knight's sword skill. Its offensive power was great, and its defense was even better. After getting a firm foothold with its defensive power, it would be time to launch straight attacks. Xiao Chao's sword was unfettered. When she attacked, her sword would become a summer storm, reckless and unbridled. When she defended, her sword would become a stalk of water grass, swallowing all her enemies' attacks. The freckled sister's sword skill is better. Mumu was held by Yun Shi, looking at the last piece of butter bread in Yun Shi's hand with desire, but her judgment was very right. Yes, but Hua Yu also has an advantage. Her bloodline is stronger. Yun Shi intently watched the dancing of their swords. To be honest, if he hadn't obtained Hua Hua's sword talent, he would be no match for both of them. One had an old bloodline and was a talented female swordsman that had received the best knight education from her childhood. The other was just a village girl that obtained no legacy, growing up freely like a grass stalk in the wild, but had practiced her mortal sword to the limit. Clearly, Xiao Chao cared about her failure in the last battle very much. She specially reforged and reinforced her iron sword. After filling the gap between their weapons, Xiao Chao immediately showed her frightening talent. Yun Shi even thought that if she could keep improving herself, someday, she wouldn't be inferior to his perfect childhood sweetheart. Her sword contained a potential that neither Flying Swallow sword nor Holy Cross sword had. Perhaps it was still at its embryonic form now, but as Xiao Chao grew, her mortal sword would reach an inconceivable realm. However, Hua Yu was strong, too. No one should disdain any noble family's history and legacy. That was their essence after countless deaths, bloodshed, and failures, which had been engraved in their descendants' bloodlines. White Gold Rose bloodline was such an essence. After experiencing countless battles, it finally became a kind of instinct, inherited by Hua family's descendants from generation to generation. Hua Yu's bloodline also contained a special property, just like Xiao Chao's tough will. The next second, Yun Shi's guess was confirmed. Blooming. My rose sword. Instantly, bright light burst out from Hua Yu's white gold crossed sword. A translucent white gold rose rose from her crossed sword. This was the first time that Hua Yu unleashed all her bloodline's power after she had awakened her bloodline. Hua Yu's white gold rose couldn't be compared with Hua Hua's sky-flying sword, which was so strong that it could even slay a dragon, but it was still a power that was beyond a mortal's limit and had reached the hero rank. Compared to Yun Shi's, the Swallow Returns, the power contained in her sword symbolized white gold rose's glory. Xiao Chao's black iron sword groaned. Its sword blade, which had been reinforced, instantly became scarred. However, Xiao Chao didn't step back. On the contrary, she walked forward. In that same moment, Hua Yu made the same movement. This, Yun Shi felt their footsteps, breaths and rhythms in surprise. At the last moment, they made the same choice. Crossed Flying Swallow sword. Continuous Flying Swallow sword. The heavy white gold crossed sword turned into lights. In Hua Yu's hand, it wasn't like a flying swallow, but like a hovering eagle, holy and unstoppable. And the scarred black iron sword perfectly recreated Yun Shi's flying swallow. No. It was Xiao Chao's flying swallow. Flying swallow 10-fold attack. Flying swallow 14-fold attack. They were both flying swallow sword, but had turned into two different styles in the two sword geniuses' hands. Hua Yu's flying swallow sword reduced flexibility, but increased the attacking range and power. Xiao Chao's flying swallow sword was more nimble, changeable, and faster. This was a battle of power, speed, attack, and nimbleness. They both understood how to make flying swallow sword more suitable to themselves. What they understood was really breathtaking. Oh, I take back my words. These two sisters are both very good. Mumu looked at Hua Yu and Xiao Chao in admiration. Yes, they are both good girls. I can't watch them getting hurt. Mumu, can you leave the piece of butter bread to them? Yun Shi unsheathed the crane wing's twin swords. Chapter 126, Innocent Paradise. 1. The twin swords hovered in the air like a pair of flying dragons and respectively locked onto Xiao Chao and Hua Yu as their targets. Ding! Hua Yu's white gold crossed sword shivered. Her flying swallow sword was interrupted. Obviously, Crane Wing's twin swords were stronger than Hua Yu's white gold crossed sword. Ding! Xiao Chao's reforged black iron sword couldn't block the twin swords' attack. Even though she had tried her best to parry the twin swords with her sword's unbroken part, it was still useless. Crane Wing's twin swords were superior to Hua Yu's white gold crossed sword. It was matchless amongst all the mortal-ranked weapons. Okay, let's eat the butter bread together. Yun Shi used Quicksilver motion, instantly appearing beside Xiao Chao and Hua Yu. He divided the last piece of butter bread into 3 slices. This is yours, Xiao Chao. Yun Shi gently put the first slice of bread to Xiao Chao's mouth, feeding her to eat it. Xiao Chao blushed, and this made Yun Shi really feel curious. Did she really like his butter bread so much? As far as he remembered, Hua Hua, Alphyllis, Miley and Yili liked his butter bread too. Did his butter bread really taste so good? Ah! Hua Yu felt jealousy as she watched this scene, but her face immediately turned bright, because Yun Shi came to feed her too. Oh! Unlike Xiao Chao, who had eaten the whole slice of bread immediately. Hua Yu first put out her small tongue and lightly licked the white cream on the bread. She even stealthily licked Yun Shi's finger, then bit the slice of bread bit by bit with a satisfied look. I lost. Seeing Hua Yu's cunning behavior, Xiao Chao finally realized what a mistake she had made. She shouldn't have eaten up Yun Shi's bread so fast. They were really engaged in a close battle just now. Neither Xiao Chao nor Hua Yu conceded defeat. In that case, Yun Shi's intervention was just in time. It wouldn't mean anything if they kept fighting. However, Xiao Chao suffered a great deal on another battlefield, and Hua Yu wasn't the last winner, too. May, feed me. Mumu stretched out her both hands and kissed Yun Shi's face. She gazed at the last slice of butter bread with desire, acting like a spoiled child. This was her privilege as a child. Neither Xiao Chao nor Hua Yu could kiss Yun Shi so easily and not be hampered. Okay. Looking at Mumu's watery eyes, Yun Shi felt that his heart had melted. He mercilessly despised Mumu's father in his heart again. How could her father abandon such a cute child so easily? Ah, woo. Maize bread is the best. There is maize taste inside it. Mumu licked the white cream on the bread bit by bit with a bright smile on her face. It's just a slice of butter bread. Please don't exaggerate. I can make as many as I can as long as there are still raw materials. Yunshi didn't understand why Xiao Qiao and Hua Yu fought for his bread. Was his bread really so fantastic? His technique had unleashed the food's full taste and nutrition, but they were still normal food. We need your bread. Although the battle had ended in a draw, Hua Yu didn't feel at ease at all. Xiao Qiao's advancement speed was too fast. If Hua Yu hadn't awakened her white gold rose bloodline, nor wasn't using her white gold crossed sword, probably she would have been defeated. Bread is good, Xiao Qiao said and nodded, looking at Mumu, who was fed by Yunshi, with an envious look. Yunshi felt that as if he had returned to that small town. He looked at the three girls with a confused look. He remembered that in the past, his childhood sweethearts often kept fighting for his bread too. However, because Hua Hua was the strongest amongst them, she had taken almost all the butter bread Yunshi had made. Occasionally, Yunshi would make extra butter bread and only at that time would he could stealthily share that bread with Phyllis, Miley, and Yi Li. At this time, the girls had all finished eating Yunshi's bread. They let out a sigh of relief. The battle between Hua Yu and Xiao Qiao was too fierce, getting out of their breaths. They could see Hua Yu's heavy flying swallow sword and Xiao Qiao's flying swallow 14-fold clearly, but couldn't understand them. Most of the girls could only understand the starting position of the two different flying swallow sword, and that was due to Yunshi seeds in their bodies. I see. So this is the flying swallow sword. Hua Yu won't be defeated. But Xiao Qiao is strong too. Neither side got the better of the other. Can we create our own flying swallow sword in the future? Due to Yunshi's seeds, all the girls had a special feeling towards flying swallow sword. After seeing Hua Yu and Xiao Qiao's battle, they had all learned something. The seeds were growing fast in the girls' bodies. After a night, the tropical storm that had raged last night was like an unreal dream, leaving no trace on the island. The scorching sun was shining on the unknown island, making the girls feel the full power of the heat in tropical regions. Not only the sun, the air was hot too. Soon afterwards, sweat broke out all over the girls' bodies and trickled down their backs, wetting their tattered clothes. I feel so hot. The heat is killing me. Is this the tropical climate? How can people live under these circumstances? I can't live with the smell on my body. We need to have a bath and change our clothes. No. I can't stand it anymore. In the scorching sun, the girls finally couldn't stand the current situation. When they were stranded, they could put up with inconveniences, but it was still a cruel torture to them. It's indeed very hot today. Yunshi wiped away his sweat from his forehead. This was his first time being on a tropical island. Fortunately, his black maid's uniform could clean itself automatically, so he wasn't as embarrassed as other girls. May and everyone, guess what I have found? Ling Ling's voice came from a side of the mountain with a cheerful tone. What? New supplies. You found some new survivors? The girls chattered, but none of them guessed the right answer. It's a hot spring. I found a hot spring. This is a volcanic island. Ling Ling said loud with excitement. This news instantly ignited these girls' passions. Hot spring. There is a hot spring. I will die if the situation continues like this. I'm saved. Let's go and have a relaxing time at the hot spring together. May, come with me. Let's enjoy the hot spring. Yunshi didn't answer. His body was as stiff as a stone now. What? Enrich, having a bath together with these girls. Chapter 127, Innocent Paradise, 2. The hot spring Ling Ling found wasn't far away from their temporary campground. It was only about a mile away. However, it was on the other side of the mountain, so they couldn't see it from the platform. The existence of a hot spring meant that the island wasn't formed by corals, but formed due to a volcanic eruption. They didn't see steam rising from the volcanic vent, which meant that the volcano was dormant. Therefore, they didn't need to worry that the volcano would suddenly erupt. The ground, piled up by thick volcanic ashes, could be very good farmland. This also explained why there were so many tropical shrubs and little animals like squirrels. However, the most important thing to the girls was still the hot spring. After a day's hard work, finally they could take a break. Nothing would be better than a hot spring for them. Under the scorching sun especially, their bodies felt squishy and their clothes were tattered. How could they endure such an environment at ease? Hurry up. It's here. Ling Ling stood on a rock above the hot spring and waved her hands at them. Hot spring. Hot spring. Thank God. Heaven never seals off all the exits. If things went on like this, I will absolutely be driven crazy. May, be quick. Let's go bathe together. To girls, it was one of the best methods to express their feelings with each other. All the girls were expecting a wonderful time and to enjoy the hot spring together with the mysterious black-haired maid. No one noticed that May was trying to dodge their gazes and her face was as pale as a paper now. However, it was apparently impossible to run away without being noticed. No matter how quiet and unimpressive Yunxi tried to be, his long black hair and the gorgeous maid's uniform had both exposed him. Under the scorching sun, all the girls, including Huayu and Xiao Chao, were sweating profusely. However, Yunxi was still not sweating at all. This was really unfair in the other girls' eyes. If they hadn't seen a few beads of sweat dripping from his forehead, they would even wonder if Yunxi was a mysterious fairy. WWW. What can I do? After realizing that everyone was looking at him and he wouldn't have any chance to run away, Yunxi sweated profusely in his heart. To take a bath together with so many beautiful girls. That was far beyond his moral bottom line. Why did he have to face such a situation? He only pretended to be his childhood sweetheart's maid, hiding and training himself in Sword Palace, then he would finally find a way to get rid of that apostle. There must be something wrong. I shouldn't be surrounded by girls like now, having to bathe together with them. I must find a method to run away. I must. Yunxi, remember that you are an upright gentleman. Unfortunately, before Yunxi could find a way out, the girls had reached the hot spring. The hot spring wasn't large, but it could accommodate 40 or even 50 people. Thin mist floated on the water, was really an irresistible to the girls, especially in the hot tropical rainforest. Well, I suddenly remembered that there is something I must finish. Mumu wants to take a bath. Mumu's body was as clean as Yunxi's, but after she saw the hot spring, her eyes immediately brightened up. She cheered and quickly ran to the hot spring, taking off her socks from her snow-white legs. In the hazy mist, Mumu's feet looked as white as a pair of white jades. She bit her lips, and on her moon-like beautiful face, her big eyes were bursting with happiness. Her silver long hair covered her shoulders, emitting unique, fantastic temperament. Her petite feet, round foot arches, from her toes to her insteps, were showing an attractive gloss. With her sweet groans when she jumped into the water, they were as fatal as poison to Yunxi's heart. Her skin stained with sweat was reflecting a beautiful white color. Her petite body trembled due to the hot spring's heat. Both of her shoulders shivered when she bent down, and that posture. Oh! Due to the heat of the water, her thin body started to ooze sweat. Her white skin was covered in pink. Her pink lips groaned, and her small breasts rose and fell with each breath, and her pink buds. Awu, Mumu's voice sounded like a small fox. Yunxi wondered if it was her natural talent, because he heard allure in her voice. Her skin shivered due to happiness and her temperament was becoming charming with her breath and scent. That was a girl's scorching and innocent rhythm of love. Her soft skin was so alluring that one wanted to bite it, as if one could suck out sweet milk from her skin. Don't be in a hurry, Moo Moo. While Moo Moo jumped into the hot spring, Xiao Qiao was taking off her clothes. Unlike Moo Moo's snow-white skin, Xiao Qiao's skin looked healthy and tight. Her long legs that naturally formed due to her regular training were her most prominent features. Even though Yunxi had seen her body before, he was still attracted by her. Let's go, Mei. Let's go down there together. For the first time, Huayu exposed her perfect body in front of Yunxi. Her skin, waist, legs were so perfect. She was just standing there, but it was sufficient to charm men all over the world. What a pornographic and fatal scene. Especially these girls' innocent smiles, they were the most terrible monsters in Yunxi's heart now. No. I'm finished. I'm not an upright gentleman anymore. Yunxi blushed as if his face was burning. No, I can't keep on like this. Even though his disguise was perfect, but one part of his body couldn't be changed. If he went bathing together with them, there wouldn't be any chance for him to hide his identity. My family has a special custom that no family members can go bathing together with anyone. I will come back here after you all finish bathing. Yunxi made a far-fetched excuse, then awkwardly ran away without glancing back. Chapter 128, Girls Chat, Titter. The girls couldn't help but laugh out when they saw Yunxi's awkward appearance. Well, I didn't expect that Mei is so shy. Isn't it a pleasurable thing to go bathe together? Yes, her breasts are slightly smaller than average, but is it necessary to mind it so much? At any rate, she wouldn't be smaller than Moo Moo, right? My breasts aren't small. They are very big. Moo Moo quibbled with an angry tone. However, after looking at her flat chest, she had to admit the fact while grinding her teeth that her breasts were indeed very small at this moment. Well, almost all the girls of the female swordsman group had thought the wrong way. They thought that Mei, too, cared about her flat chest and didn't want to let anyone realize this point, so she chose to run away. This little flaw didn't hurt Mei's impression in their hearts, but let them feel more intimate. So Mei also had her weak point. She was too cute. By the way, Huayu, how can your breasts be so big? What's your method of absorbing nutrients? Yes. How did you maintain your skin? Your skin is as smooth as milk. I'm jealous. After someone opened the conversation, almost everyone had focused their minds on Huayu. They had to admit that after awakening her white gold rose bloodline, Huayu's beauty and body shape were both the undoubtedly number one amongst all the girls. Especially her chest. Even 3 Xiao Qiaos were no match for her. The gap between them was as wide as a gorge. Well, firstly, you need to drink milk. I recommend you drink the milk from Western Gods Domain's plateau areas. They are not cheap, but I can help you reserve them after we enter Sword Palace. Huayu didn't try to hide her secret but shared it with everyone generously. As long as they were still in puberty, the growth of their breasts wouldn't be irremediable. Not to mention that even after puberty, there would still be many ways that could make up for their lifetime regret. At this time, the multi-headed dragon must be mentioned here. In the eyes of the girls whose breasts were pathetically flat, its blood was really a fantastic medicine, and no matter how many years had passed, its wanted lists were still hanging all over the universe, because too many girls were eager for its blood. Well, how to describe it concretely? It was said that in order to hunt the multi-headed dragon who was really good at escaping, dozens of female groups had formed a huge organization called the Alliance of Hunting Multi-Headed Dragons. The members of this rare female organization were all over the gods' domains. As long as they found any trace of the multi-headed dragon, they would chase after it by fair means or foul. What? Does such a fantastic medicine really exist in the world? I heard that its blood is even effective on legend-ranked adult females. Oh gosh, I want its blood. The multi-headed dragon must still be alive. There is still hope for me yet. Undoubtedly, to pursue a perfect body and chest were all the girls dreamt of. Even if they were already older than 16, they were still young girls. The legend-ranked females who were still hunting for the multi-headed dragon diligently from one god's domain to another also thought so. After discussing the multi-headed dragon's miserable fate with their great enthusiasm, the girls started to talk about their own fantastic changes. By the way, I find that my skin has become far better than before. No one knew who said it, but soon afterwards, all the girls joined in the discussion. Gee. You too. I thought that it was my illusion. Great. Look. I was always distressed at my scars. But they had suddenly disappeared one day. Ling Ling raised her hand to prove her words. Not only her. All the members of the small female swordsman group had noticed that some inexplicable change had occurred to their bodies. Their skin had become much smoother, and their thinking had become clearer. When they practiced their sword skills, their growing speed had frightened even themselves. At first, they thought that it was just an exception, but after this bathe, the secret wouldn't be a secret anymore. So, not only Huayu and Xiao Chao were becoming stronger and stronger. In the past few days, over 10 girls had felt that the door to the second rank was opening up to them, and other girls had also touched the edge of the second rank. So, everyone is the same. Incredible. I was told that my talent was bad and no matter how hard I tried, I could only reach the second rank in my life. However, I have the self-confidence to reach the second rank, no, even a higher rank now. Yes, me too. I don't know the reason, but I do have the confidence to follow Huayu, Xiao Chao, and everyone to reach a higher realm. I even started to wonder why I was so foolish in the past. Why did I have to spend such a long time to practice the simplest sword skill at that time? Huayu and Xiao Chao looked at each other, wearing an expression of, could that be the reason, on their faces. Everything had been changed since that day. More specifically, since the moment they met that mysterious black-haired girl. The mysterious black-haired maid perfectly conformed to the tale that only spread in Sky Sword God's domain. After obtaining a strand of her black hair, everything started to become fantastic for them. Due to her black hair's blessing, Huayu awakened her family's old white gold rose bloodline, and Xiao Chao obtained her perfect mortal sword. Other girls hadn't obtained that many changes like Huayu and Xiao Chao yet, but their sword skills also started to contain inconceivable spiritualities. The most important thing was that they came together because of this reason and link, and finally became intimate with each other. Why had that happened? They should have separated and never had any links after Sword Palace's entrance test. But now, they got along well with each other, having formed an inseparable small group. As I expected, Mei is different. Hua is stronger, but Mei has a different charm. I always feel happy when I can stay with Mei. Yes. I think that Mei's potential isn't inferior to Hua's. Mei is the main reason that we can be together. At this moment, the girls finally ensured that the smiling, warm, mysterious black-haired maid was the tie linking everyone together. No one knew when it started, but her and them had become so intimate now, as if an invisible thread named Fate had linked them and their beloved Mei together. In the female swordsman group, Mei was special and unique. No one could replace her. Mei was the moon, and they were the stars around the moon, sparkling with charming moonlight. Chapter 129, Synchronous Reaction. I suck, Yunshi laughed at himself and gasped. With great difficulty, he had finally forced himself to run away from the girls. He knew that he shouldn't go to the hot spring with them, but he didn't say no immediately at that time and finally, almost made an unforgivable mistake. If Hua Hua was here. A shudder ran down Yunshi's back. Hua Hua's jealous radar would have made her go mad. Fortunately, Hua Hua was far away and wouldn't know what happened. He was really lucky. At a place far away from the island Yunshi and the girls were at, Hua Hua and the twin witches were fighting a large monster side by side. No. Something is wrong. Hua Hua felt an inexplicable irritation a moment ago. She didn't know why she suddenly felt gloomy and fretful, but since she had fallen into this sea area, an ominous presentiment kept haunting her heart. She had a persistent suffocating feeling, and restlessness as if her blood was flowing backwards. What was happening to her little she at that place she couldn't reach? Don't get distracted. This is a tough enemy. Red Lotus noticed Hua Hua's absent-minded look. She had to warn Hua Hua as they were fighting a powerful monster. The monster's whole body was covered with a thick shell. Only its milky white part under its shell was exposed and suspended in the air. Its tentacles shockingly revealed a kind of red blood. It wasn't a local monster from White Lotus Sword Domain. It was an intruder from the void, having broken into the Sword Domain through the hole that the White Holy Dragon had made. I know. I just can't stop worrying. Hua Hua was driven into a frenzy again. She felt uneasy due to some unknown danger. Little she, you must be safe. If things go on like this, I can't avoid all accidents, Yunshi sighed, looking at his own face's reflection on the sword blade. His skin was as white as snow and his black hair was so smooth that it could even reflect rays of sunlight. If Yunshi didn't know that this was his current appearance, he would even be captivated by his own look. The Great Sword Maid's legacy was too terrible. It could even change a person so much. No wonder that Hua Yu, Xiao Chao, and all the other members of the female swordsman group doubted him. They even invited him to go bathe together. However, he was 100% male. The black maid uniform's disguise couldn't hide his true nature. To be honest, no one would be indifferent to Hua Yu's and Xiao Chao's naked bodies. He was a man. He couldn't stop his physiological reactions. Elf, what did you think of me that night? Was it really a dream? Yunshi had had only one experience of skin-to-skin contact. He only intertwined both his body and soul with a girl once. He couldn't help but remember what happened that night again. Was it a dream or reality? That night, under that memorable tree, he walked up to her, holding her hands and kissing her lips. With his hand stroking, the elf's body shivered. Her long legs tightly closed due to her nervousness. He stretched out his hand, taking off her shoes and socks from her beautiful feet. Under the moonlight, her feet shuddered as if they were a pair of cheeses, spreading a delicious scent in the air. He looked at her gem-like legs as if he was staring at the most beautiful piece of art in the world. In his eyes, nothing was more beautiful than her legs. The elf blushed. She turned her face and waited, suppressing her groan with all her strength, but finally failed to control her mood. She put down both her hands, tightly holding the grasses on the ground in her hands. He gently licked her feet and kissed her foot arches, kissing her white skin from her toes to her insteps, leaving his kiss marks on her slender legs. The elf sweetly groaned, opening herself up to him. What a beautiful body! What a strong allure! Yunshi already couldn't control his desire any longer. Whoa! What am I thinking? Recalling that he was remembering the most embarrassing part in his memory, Yunshi's face instantly turned red. Yunshi finally failed to recall which part was a dream and which part was reality. Immersing in the hot spring with hazy mist, Mumu's small face turned red. What's this? What's this weird feeling? Mumu was too young to know the meaning of this strange, exciting feeling. She felt as if someone was gently raising her feet, kissing her from her toes to her insteps, then from her insteps to her foot arches. After that, she felt as if someone was lifting her face, gently kissing her lips and opening her mouth with his tongue. The person was tasting her mouth and intruding into the inside of her mouth. She gingerly put out her tongue, intertwining her tongue with the non-existent tongue. The warm tongue made Mumu lose her head. She couldn't help but emit a sweet groan. With a few beads of sweat on her skin, her petite body shook due to stress. In the warm water, Mumu's body started to sweat. Her white skin was covered with a layer of pink. Why? Why am I feeling so comfortable? Her mouth's temperature was rapidly rising, as if someone was taking her lips, making her blush and immerse herself in happiness. Her ears, legs, chest, and invisible tail were warming up, as if a pair of burning eyes were looking up and down at her body rudely. Hoa! Mumu held her slender feet in her hands, but found out that her snow-white hands were uncontrollably stroking her feet. She didn't want to do that, but couldn't suppress the impulse from deep within her heart. Moreover, she didn't know why she had this feeling, but when she stroked her body, she felt that it wasn't her doing so, but someone else. Her slender legs were inexplicably sensitive at this moment. A few simple touches had made her body limp. Suddenly, Mei's face appeared in Mumu's mind. Her petite body shivered, finally emitting a sweet melody with an unstoppable joy. Almost at the same time, the elf in Yunshi's mind suddenly turned into Mumu. The silver-haired girl lightly bit her lips, giving a shy and stealthy glance at Yunshi with an unquenchable expectation in her timid eyes. Chapter 130, Destiny Knot, G. Yunshi couldn't believe his eyes. Why did Mumu's appearance suddenly emerge in his mind? What was wrong with him? Why did such an evil idea suddenly pop up in his mind? Mumu had no relationship with him, and the only link between them was the seed he planted in her body for protecting her. Why did the elf suddenly become her? Oh oh oh. Mumu emitted out a cute groan. She feebly fell down in the hot spring and lost her voice due to shame. That was too awkward. Why did her body feel this way? Ho ho. No, Mumu wouldn't be a bad child. Mumu, are you okay? Did you bathe in the water too long? Huayu asked with concern. She looked at Mumu's burning face, then stretched out her hand to take her temperature. Your face is hot. Your temperature is too high. Hiss. Mumu blushed as if she was burning. Her snow-white skin was covered with a layer of pink. Mumu is becoming a bad child. Ho ho. Be good, it's okay. You just stayed in the hot water too long. Children shouldn't bathe in a hot spring too long. Something happened just now. Yunshi gazed at the thread between himself and Mumu, which had suddenly been dyed with a suspicious red-colored layer. Yunshi was sure that before he had gone to the hot spring, the thread was still normal. But something strange had happened to Mumu's seed just now. Mayor, why has this thread changed its color? Shouldn't the threads all be transparent? In fact, that's a hint from your love system, Mayor stammered. She was too embarrassed to explain that. What's the hint that makes the thread turn red? Yunshi suddenly had a kind of foreboding. Perhaps. Maybe. It should be a hint about the resonance between two lovers. Which means Master and Mumu have a very high synchronization rate. Mayor finally told Yunshi the startling truth. This is a hint from the great stars. It's just like the destiny knot in Eastern Gods' Domain's fairy stories. A destiny knot between Mumu and I. Don't be ridiculous. She is still a child. Yunshi shouted. At any rate, Mumu couldn't be his lover. She and Yili must wait for at least 7, 8 years to be his candidate brides. If he stretched out his hand to them before that, he would be worse than a beast. He always considered himself as an upright gentleman. He only wanted to run his bakery and marry one of his childhood sweethearts. It has nothing to do with the thread. Perhaps it's because Master and Moo Moo have a high corresponding nature. Mayor also didn't know the reason clearly. Whatever she thought, she didn't think that Moo Moo would like Yunshi so much from the very beginning. That was too weird. Only Hua Hua's love had reached such an extent so far as she knew. The twin witches, Hua Yu and Xiao Chao, were still far from reaching this extent. Heck, how can it be possible? Moo Moo isn't even an Eastern God's domain local person. Yunshi was speechless to hear his star elf's stupid words. Perhaps it was a bug in his love system. After all, according to his personal experience, the great stars were unreliable when things referred to love. Awakening the sleeping beauty by kissing and saving the princess on the tower. How old these fairy stories were. What decade were the stars living in? It must be the same reason to make the stars mistakenly believe that Moo Moo's thread was a destiny knot. A girl came from a distant place to look for his father. Didn't this sound like a fairy tale? Was it one of the reasons? She is young, but you can wait for her to grow up, my master. As the communicator of the great stars, Mayer didn't think that the stars would make mistakes. The stars recorded the universe's beginning and its end. Their will was beyond time and all living beings' imagination. Since the stars thought that the thread between Moo Moo and Yunshi was a destiny knot, then they shouldn't be wrong. After all, the star love system was made for teaching Yunshi how to love and escape away from his 4 ex-girlfriends. Since you can accept Yili, why can't you accept Moo Moo? Cheer up, master. To the star elf, she didn't care about the moral principles of mortals. She only needed to follow the star's will, helping her master grow up, learn how to love, and to become strong. I don't understand. I mean, I was unlucky enough in my past life. Why do I have to continue to make mistakes? Can't I just have one lover? Can't I keep hiding my identity and marry Hua Hua? Isn't that good enough? Yunshi sighed. Sorry, but you can't. If you choose Hua Hua, I have to say that only death is waiting for you. Mayer immediately warned her master to give up this impracticable idea. If Yunshi was satisfied with the existing state and married Hua Hua, after the apostle found him, he would die. No, his condition would be even worse than death. I know. I'm just saying. So, do I have to use this method to become stronger? Yunshi raised his hand and gazed at the girl's seeds. Every minute, every second, there was various information flowing into his body via the seed's threads. Likewise, his information also flowed to the girls via the threads at the same time. Taking the twin witch's seeds and Hua Hua's seed as the peak that he could reach, himself as the core, and the dozens of female swordsmen as the branches, a web made by using the star's power had been born. It looked like a beautiful star map. He was the sun, and the girls were stars, revolving around him. The sun and the stars were connected by countless light threads like a never-ending rhythm. Like the sun that will rise from the horizon every day, even if I'm surrounded by the relentless darkness, I will also break it by using my mutilated body. Like the night that will come every day, even if I'm troubled due to the twisted fate today, I still believe that the world will never change. Only we will be changed. The truth that we are still alive is our strongest weapon. The sun, the moon, and the stars will never to be separated. The sun and the stars had appeared, then where was the moon? Maybe it meant that the most excellent girl would rise from the stars, becoming the moon to accompany the sun. Chapter 131, Starwing's various comprehensions, various scenes, and various colors were vivid in Yunshi's mind. As if they were flowers that were blossoming in a garden, the threads between Yunxi and the girls were indeed increasing his power steadily. Even though Yunxi hadn't entered any trial recently, he could still feel that his understanding about sword skills was growing, and his talent was also constantly getting stronger at the same time. The best evidence was that Crane Wing's twin swords were making happy, tremulous sounds. One of the special properties of the twin swords was that they could become stronger as their owner's talent became stronger. When Yunxi had just obtained the twin swords, he could barely control them to launch flying attacks within 10 meters. Now, the range had increased to 15 meters. His sword flying ability had also increased. In the past, he couldn't hover above the ground higher than 2 meters, but now, he could fly about 3 meters above the ground. This had barely entered the realm of air battle. The girl's growth advanced Yunxi's growth, and Yunxi's growth also advanced the girl's growth. They had formed a perfect, virtuous cycle. It wasn't a kind of inconspicuous growth, but like a seed under the soil, suddenly being exposed to the sun and growing comfortably and naturally. Mayor, will it be better for all the girls if I share my seeds to as many girls as I can? The more Yunxi used the seed system, the more love from the stars Yunxi could feel. The system could not only improve his power but also improve his talent. That was too fantastic. Moreover, it wasn't only increasing his talent, but also included the girl's talents and powers. Yes. Master, you'd better share your seeds to all the good girls you will meet. For example, Mumu is a very good target. You did well at that time. Your seeds aren't only good for yourself, but are also good for them. Mayor never felt bored carrying out the task the stars ordered her to do. As long as Yunxi was still at the mortal rank, he could share his seeds with about 100 girls, and he had only used about 40 seeds till now. There were still 60 quotas before Yunxi reached the hero rank. If he didn't use them, that would be a great loss. I must urge my master to find more promising girls and give out all the 100 seeds. The star elf, Mayor, secretly made this decision in her heart. At the same time, in the hot spring, the girls were discussing a very important matter. Nanny, since we hit it off with each other, why don't we form a formal group? Yes. We were all born in White Lotus Sword Domain, and gathered together from different places and became the best of friends. This must be destiny's guidance. It's about time. No one here thinks that she can't become a formal disciple of Sword Palace, right? Of course not. After sharing Yunxi's seeds, the girls were congenial to each other's tastes, and their talents had also improved to an incredible extent. Even if they were not as good as Hua Yu and Xiao Chao, but they were sure that they would reach the hero rank someday. It sounded like unreasonable confidence, but they were so sure about that and not one of them had any doubt about that. After being blessed by Mei's black hair, they had become different. Their lives had been changed after that day. Yunxi thought that no one would realize his behavior of propagating his seeds, but he ignored the girls' instincts. They had vaguely realized that there must be some link between Mei and their changes from a long time ago. Hence, the girls gathered here and considered how could they repay the miracle Mei had given them. So, what can be a suitable name for our group? Hua Yu is our leader and Xiao Chao is our deputy leader, so, how about Rose Knights? Ling Ling raised her hand. As one of Hua Yu's subordinates, she naturally supported her big sister. No, we are not nobles from Western God's domain. Besides, there are already a lot of Rose Knights all over the God's domains. The civilian girls shook their heads together. The Plantagenet Knights? The noble girls asked. Due to Hua Yu, they were inclined to choose a Western-style name. No. Why are they all flowers? I think that Convalaria Knight sounds better. Undoubtedly, this was a girl who biased towards Xiao Chao. Hua Yu and Xiao Chao's supporters were split about half and half. Hua Yu's noble identity let her easily become their leader. Even the civilian girls didn't have too many complaints about that. However, it didn't mean that they would let the noble girls decide their group's name all by themselves. Flower or grass? Both of them had their own ideas. They singularly quarreled with each other. I think that Starwings will be a good name. As they quarreled, Moo woke up. She offered them her proposal. It doesn't sound bad. The noble girls looked at each other, then nodded. Since they couldn't use traditional female group names such as Rose, Plantagenet, and Iris, then Starwings, which sounded neutral and dreamy, was also acceptable. Good girl, Moo. You're smart. I also think that Starwings is a good name. Well, look at the starry sky. I can image that someday we will finally sprout wings and fly amongst the stars. That's romantic. I like it. From now on, we are the Starwings female knights. Moo's charm was matchless. Besides, Starwings sounded romantic and poetic, conforming with the girls' likes. They were all satisfied with this name. Therefore, from now on, I'm the leader of Starwings female knights. Everyone, be good to each other. As the Hua family's girl, it was a natural thing to form a small group. However, after being elected as the leader of Starwings female knights, Hua Yu still felt that a ball of flame was burning in her heart. I'm the deputy leader. Well, not bad. Xiao Chao looked at Hua Yu's breasts and her own breasts, then finally nodded and accepted the difference. She wasn't suited to be the leader, which was a career that needed to spend a lot of time communicating and leading everyone. Her only mission was to practice her sword skills to the limit and defeat all the potential enemies of Starwings female knights. If Hua Yu was the imperial crown of Starwings female knights symbolizing honor and glory, then Xiao Chao was the sword of Starwings female knights eliminating all their enemies, even if it meant that she would be bathed in blood. As for Mei, the reason for the birth of Starwings female knights, she was naturally the emperor of the imperial crown and the sword. Starwings female knights finally formed. At that time, the girls didn't know how far the Starwings female knights would go on, and how famous they would be in the future. Chapter 132, Invasive Creatures. Yunxi was standing at the top of the mountain and watching the whole island. The place where he and the girls were was just a very small area if comparing its size to the whole island size. Judging from the sun's location, they should be in the eastern corner of the island within a radius of about 10 kilometers. The dormant volcano wasn't the summit of the island. It was just a part of a group of volcanoes. The largest volcano was about several kilometers in height at the center of the island. Although the island was in a tropical region, Yunxi could see ice caps and white snow on the volcano. I never thought that it would be such a large island. Yunxi only saw a small part of the island, but the area he could see was already 1,000 times larger than the small town he lived in the past. The island was located in the forbidden area of White Lotus Sword Domain. Apparently, there wouldn't be any aborigines. It was an uninhabited island that had never been developed, which meant that it was an impossible goal to leave the island only with his and the girls' power. They'd better collect all the materials they could find from White Lotus's wreckage and the forest, to build a solid makeshift camp and wait for Sword Palace's rescuers. Maybe there was no one that could match the Apostle even in the whole White Lotus Sword Domain, but there must be someone far stronger than the Apostle in the Sky Sword God's domain. The legendary Sky Sword were a group of swordsmen that ruled all sword domains, and the master of Sky Sword God's domain was the strongest swordsman in the whole Eastern God's domain. The fact that White Lotus Sword Domain was invaded by an unknown apostle wasn't a small matter. Yunxi thought that the rescuers should be already on their way now. Before the rescuers come here, we should make sure that we have enough food, water, and a safe place to live. Yunxi listed all the troubles they may face. Finally, he cleared his head. He and the girls would strive to survive on the island together. None of them knew how to live on an uninhabited island, and they didn't know if there was something dangerous on the island. Therefore, they must be very careful. Master, be careful. A large part of the sky is becoming unstable. Whilst Yunshi was working on his desert island survival plan, Mayor suddenly warned him in a serious tone, invaders are intruding this airspace. Red alert. Red alert. They are not apostles. They are monsters from the void. Even if Mayor didn't warn Yunshi, he and all the girls on the island saw that the sky was breaking up like a layer of glass, suffusing with waves. A large number of unknown monsters were staring at the island and the living beings on the island with their vicious eyes. Mayor, how many are they? Suddenly, he had to stop his desert island surviving plan and fight against intruders. The change was too drastic. Scanning, the space is repairing itself, but there are a fourth-ranked monster and a lot of its children squeezing into the airspace. Mayor's voice sounded anxious. Hiss. A humongous blue spider was squeezing into the world from the void. It was about 10 meters long with countless dark shadow patterns on its back. Almost half of its sharp legs had broken, but it still emitted a gloomy and cold temperament. Countless spider threads dropped down along its 8 legs and were tightly wrapped around the island's main peak. With that, it barely pulled itself out from the void crack in the air. It's a dark shadow spider, a common hunter in the void. It's good at spinning webs and hatching little spiders, having a burning desire to catch prey to feed to its descendants. It's seriously injured now, but the chance of you winning is still not more than 10%. Mayor searched her memory and told Yunshi the spider's information. It was one of the bottom feeders in the void and known for its strong reproductive capacity and patience when it hunted its prey. In essence, dark shadow spiders didn't need to eat blood and flesh. They could even live without food for dozens of years. The only purpose for them to hunt was to produce descendants. My chance of winning is not more than 10%. That's really bad. Yunshi watched the dark shadow spider. Maybe it was just a negligible existence in the void, but to him and the girls, it was a horrible monster that had the ability to eliminate them all. Be careful, Master. It has noticed you. Mayor warned Yunshi in an anxious tone. I know. Yunshi had seen its 8 compound eyes, which were full of killing intention inside them. To the dark shadow spider, it didn't need a reason to kill, because it would never give up any chance to catch prey, especially when the prey was a black-haired, sweet human. In the dark shadow spider's memory, humans were a kind of super delicious food. I want to eat this human, hunting and hunting, then produce my descendants. The dark shadow spider's instinct was telling it that it was time to kill. I can't run away. The whole island has become the spider's hunting ground. Yunshi took a deep breath with large drops of sweat dripping from his skin. He felt nervous. After all, this was not a star's trial. He was facing a bloodthirsty monster in the reality. Mayor, tell me characteristics of its attacks. Yunshi started to run to the highest volcano at his full speed. Yes. Dark shadow spider is a creature that is good at lurking and spinning webs. Normally, dark shadow spiders will take a large amount of time to catch prey in the void, so they won't eat their prey easily. Instead, they tend to stalk prey and wait till the best spawning time. At that time, they will ovulate and fertilize themselves to produce clones. Oh, the spider is a hermaphrodite. Its superpower is its dark shadow spider thread that has strong ductility and tenacity. It's not easy to break free from its threads. As Yunshi heard Mayor's words, the dark shadow spider had descended onto the volcano and started to hunt. One spider thread after another formed a prodigious web. Taking the dark shadow spider as the center, the web had covered the whole area within a radius of 10 kilometers. No. Hua Yu, Xiao Chao, and the other girls are still there. Yunshi stepped on the twin swords, flying to the volcano. R. Ya. No. The girls emitted plaintive cries. They were bathing. None of them had expected that they would face such a sudden misfortune. They were wrapped up by the threads and dragged into the sky. You said that the spider wouldn't kill its prey easily, did you? Looking at this scene, Yunshi's heart was burning with anger. If the spider ate them immediately. No, I won't let it do this. Before the spider starts to produce its descendants, it won't kill its prey. Master, be careful, it has locked on you. Chapter 133, Upgrade Hua. No. Let go of me. Let go of me. Help. The girls' cries resounded throughout the sky. The Starwings female knights had just been formed, then immediately faced its first huge crisis. What? What's this? Ling Ling's arms and legs were wrapped in countless black threads. No matter how hard she tried, she still couldn't get rid of these tough threads. Her shoulders shivered. Her white, attractive arms were folded in front of her chest in shyness, but could only barely cover her full breasts. As for the beautiful curve between her waist and ass, and her slender, white gem-like legs, she had no way to cover up them. The other members of Starwing's female knights were also wrapped up in the web. Their gem-like breasts, smooth and snow-white skin, and trembling bodies were all exposed in front of Yunshi's eyes. Looking at so many girls' naked bodies, Yunshi could barely control his heartbeat. What a damn spider! The self-invited spider's first hunt had caught 35 girls, almost all the members of Starwing's female knights. Only Hua Yu, Xiao Chao escaped from the spider, and Mumu, she was hiding in a place that even Yunshi couldn't find. As one of the 3 strongest members of the Starwing's female knights, Yunshi immediately guessed Hua Yu and Xiao Chao's plan. Hua Yu, Xiao Chao. Yunshi didn't need to say any more words. In the face of the dark shadow spider from the void, the 3 people made the same choice. Fighting. Yunshi took the lead. He ran to the spider from the front to draw the dark shadow spider's attention. His crane wings twin swords flew in the air, making the void monster feel a little threatened. Well, if it was a human, then the twin sword was like a pair of poisonous wasps. That was how the dark shadow spider felt. Hiss. It expertly put the captured prey aside, spinning its web again. Compared to the web it had just spun, this time, its web was more elaborate and it had almost no loopholes. Master, be careful. Don't be wrapped in the web. I know. Yunshi looked at the web deeply with his eyes. His chance of winning was less than 10%. If he didn't pay his whole attention to the spider, his chance of survival would be very slim. However, he wasn't going to give up as long as there was still a flash of hope. He could clearly feel the girl's fear and anxiety via the seeds between them. Whoa! It's horrible. Am I going to die? No. I still want to do many things. We just formed Starwing's female knights, how can I die here now? I don't want to die. I don't want to die. I don't want to die. Somebody help me. Yunshi clenched his fists. For the first time, he used his seeds connecting ability to comfort the girls. He had never done it before, but he naturally understood how to do it. No, you won't die. I will protect you. His voice was firm and strong. That was his voice echoing within their souls. That was an oath Yunshi made to the Starwing's female knights. No one would die. You all trust me, so I will believe in your trust. Give me your talents and powers. I won't give up on any of you. This time, let me save everyone. If only a miracle can defeat the monster, then I will become that miracle. His voice directly echoed in all the captured girls' hearts. Yunshi was talking to them via their souls, telling the girls his heartfelt thinking. Hearing his voice, power started to emerge from the bottom of the girls' hearts. As if they were a group of lost lambs that were hearing an angel's voice, they saw his appearance with their eyes, then their hearts naturally felt peaceful, they heard his footsteps with their ears, then their bodies naturally relaxed, they touched his soul of light, then they were naturally relieved. Their hope still exists. May hadn't given up on them. She is fighting for them, rushing to the monster for them. The threads among the girls were becoming clearer and clearer. The more dangerous the current situation was, the more solid the friendship amongst the girls would become. Their hope was only as great as their despair. The girls prayed for their miracle, May. Their wishes continuously turned into countless true powers, enchanting Yunshi's body via the invisible threads. Power. A new power was emerging in Yunshi's body. Language and cognition, behavior and appearance, soul and body. The girls' pure wishes turned into powers and crossed the starry sky, turning into a mirror that could achieve all their wishes. Breaking the barrier. As if it was just a piece of paper being torn, the barrier between the second rank and the third rank instantly disappeared inside Yunshi's body. Instantly, Yunshi understood that his threads weren't just some ornaments. They were true yokes between him and the girls. The seeds in their souls were linked by these threads, transferring him incredible powers to create a miracle for them. This was a system the stars specially made for him. It was his unique power. The great sword maid's black uniform was emitting a pleasurable and exciting smell. The killing princess's power was gradually being awakened by Yunshi's heart. Yes. Since I have to fight, then I should have no hesitation. At this moment, he only wanted to see his enemy's death. Break. Yunshi stepped on the flying male sword, holding the female sword in one of his hands. The things which he couldn't do in the past, the realm which he could only look up to in the past, was becoming closer and familiar. He successfully launched the sword skill which Hua Hua had once shown in a previous battle. Flying Swallow 16-fold attack. The sharp sword turned into a flying swallow, cutting off the overwhelming spider threads. Speed up, and speed up. This was Yunshi's flying swallow sword. It wasn't as nimble as Hua Hua's sword, wasn't as heavy as Hua Yu's sword, and wasn't as instinctual as an animal, like Xiao Chao's sword. He just made it faster, and faster, till the limit of his speed. He broke through all the barriers in front of him and flew straight to the summit of the volcano, where the void intruder was. Hiss. The dark shadow spider's compound eyes stared at Yunshi. For the first time, it became a little serious. In its eyes, Yunshi had just been upgraded from a poisonous wasp to a killer bee now. Chapter 134, Spread Faster. Be faster. Like the wind and the thunder, he wouldn't stop. He wouldn't step back. The gap between the mortal rank and the hero rank was wide. Yunshi had to risk everything on his luck to fight for the smallest chance of winning. His heart was beating fast, and his blood was flowing backwards due to nervousness. For the first time in Yunshi's life, he was going to challenge a hero-ranked enemy with only his own strength. It wasn't a dream or a trial, but a real, life-and-death battle. If he died, he wouldn't be revived. Even though he had died hundreds of times in Stars trials, he still had only one life in the real world. To challenge a fourth-ranked monster as a third-ranked swordsman. Yunshi never dared to imagine this in his past life. Then, why did he feel so excited in his heart? Stepping on the male sword, the information about the dark shadow spider was flowing into Yunshi's mind. Its body was big, over 10 meters long. Half of its 8 legs had been broken, which would greatly reduce its movement speed in battle. Its hero-ranked superpower was its black threads, which could block the area within a radius of 10 kilometers and lock on all the targets within the range. As a hero-ranked living being, the Dark Shadow Spider's strength, attack, and defense were all above Yunshi's. If the Dark Shadow Spider was still at its peak state, Mayor wouldn't tell Yunshi that his chance of winning was 10%, but 0%. Its broken legs were Yunshi's only chance of winning. Even though it was a hero-ranked living being, when it faced the void crack, it wouldn't be any tougher than paper, unless it became a legendary creature like the 8th-ranked White Holy Dragon, then it would have the ability to break the void. The Dark Shadow Spider had barely pulled itself from the void into this world relying on its threads. As the price, half of its legs had been broken. Its movement speed had suffered a deadly blow. Speed. This was Yunshi's only advantage. Hiss. The Dark Shadow Spider opened its cold compound eyes, locking onto Yunshi, who was rapidly flying in the air with his twin swords. Indeed. Its greatest weak point was its movement speed. However, its attack range was about 10 kilometers. With its inexhaustible black spider threads, its weak point had been perfectly covered. Originally, Dark Shadow Spiders weren't famous for their movement speed. They were hunters, who usually made traps and waited for their prey to fall into their web, then launched a fatal strike. The black spider threads immediately turned into ashes after they were cut off by Yunshi's Crane Wing's twin swords. But at the same time, the Dark Shadow Spider immediately emitted more spider threads. These black spider threads could instantly extend dozens of kilometers. They were retractable and controlled by the Dark Shadow Spider's mind. It was rare to find prey in the void. Therefore, once the Dark Shadow found prey, it could be very patient. It could even spin a web for 10 years, then silently wait for the prey to be caught in its web. With the creepy spinning sounds, the Dark Shadow Spider's web had finally been formed. If one looked down from the sky, one would see that the black web had covered the whole area within a radius of 30 kilometers. Yunshi was at the center of that web. The web was like an elaborate trap, not giving the prey the tiniest chance to escape. This was the Dark Shadow Spider's dangerous hunting habit. Yunshi's flying swallow 16-fold attack had really taught it a lesson. This time, all the threads of the spider's web were made with over 10 black spider threads. The web's intensity was so high that it could even make all mortal-ranked people feel desperate. Fortunately, Yunshi's twin swords weren't normal. Even if comparing Crane Wing's twin swords to all hero-ranked weapons, they were at the top class and entitled to become a pair of artifacts. Flying Swallow 16-fold attack. 16 after images of sword crisscrossed in the air. Every attack was cut on the same point. This wasn't a property from Hua Hua's Flying Swallow sword, but a special ability from Xiao Chao's Mortal Sword. After practicing her sword skill for 1,000,000 times, Xiao Chao finally learned her perfect mortal sword, which was as stable as a stalk of grass at any time. The reinforced spider web was ripped off by Yunshi's attack again. This time, Yunshi was only about a kilometer away from the summit of the volcano, where the Dark Shadow Spider was. To the Dark Shadow Spider, Yunshi's danger class rose again. He had become a giant killer bee in its eyes. To the Dark Shadow Spider, it was unable to move freely and was going to lay eggs. Yunshi's lightning speed was really a big problem for it now. Hiss. The Dark Shadow Spider made a weird sound again. It slowly opened its mouth, emitting out a large quantity of black fluids from its mouth. It's coming. Yunshi could feel that the next 3 seconds would decide the battle's result. The first second. Black fluids gushed out from the Dark Shadow Spider's mouth, then divided into 4 sections, spreading in the air. Each divided section was like a mirror, clearly reflecting Yunshi's figure, which meant that the Dark Shadow Spider had put all its attention to its only threat, Yunshi. 4 ribbons formed by countless mirror surfaces crisscrossed and floated besides the Dark Shadow like 4 snakes. Once the black threads around them were touched by the 4 ribbons, they were immediately absorbed by them. After absorbing thousands of black threads, the ribbons turned a frightening dark black in the air and continuously emitted dissonant, horrible sounds. I can't dodge them, Yunshi observed the 4 ribbons and made a decision in his heart. This must be the dark shadow spider's strongest skill, its trump card, just like the male fiery dragon's breath. As a 3rd-ranked swordsman, he had forced the 4th-ranked dark shadow spider to use its strongest skill. It was already an amazing achievement that he could be proud of. However, Yunshi didn't want any achievement, he wanted to win. The second, high-speed shock waves, which could even be seen by the naked eyes, appeared beside the 4 black ribbons, which had covered half of the island. Around and around, they spread as if they were stones that were breaking the surface of water. Crane Wing's twin swords, flying. Yunshi held the twin swords in both his hands. He launched his fastest, strongest attack towards the dark shadow spider. As if he was a shooting star, in the girl's worried eyes, Yunshi chose to face the difficulty. Chapter 135, Flying Yunshi the 3rd second. In the first 1/10 of the 3rd second, 4 huge black ribbons floated and crisscrossed in the air, forming a weird shape that looked like a large eye. This was one of the dark shadow spider's strongest abilities, Dark Shadow Evil Eye, a nightmare spun by itself. Looking at Yunshi, the dark shadow spider grinned. It laughed at the little bug's overconfident behavior. Its gigantic evil eye stared at Yunshi, staring at his skin, black hair, and flappy maid's uniform. In the 3rd 1/10 of the 3rd second, in the blink of an eye, a weird curse easily cut through Yunshi's body. Hiss! A heartbreaking scene appeared in front of the girls. Yunshi's maid's black uniform was pierced through by countless black light points. He was thrown out and flew in the air like a tattered paper doll. His strength, blood, and soul were all annihilated by the Dark Shadow Evil Eye. This skill was the Dark Shadow Spider's superpower and its trump card. To a mortal whose life and soul wasn't stronger than the Dark Shadow Spider, this was an inescapable, unstoppable, deathly blow. How dare you! Go to hell! At the instant Yunshi was hit, Hua Yu's white gold crossed sword and Xiao Chao's black iron sword cut the air, smashing on the dark shadow spider's broken legs from both its sides. With Yunshi's cover, Hua Yu and Xiao Chao finally launched their attacks. However, their attacks only made a few slight wounds on the dark shadow spider's body. Not everyone could cross the wide gap between the mortal rank and the hero rank like Hua Hua. Even though the dark shadow spider was badly hurt, its shell was still far harder than steel. In fact, the dark shadow spider had noticed Hua Yu and Xiao Chao when they sneaked up on it. It just ignored them. After all, compared to Yunshi, they were just a pair of honey bees. In the middle of the 3rd second, as the dark shadow spider triumphantly looked at Yunshi's body dropping to the ground, Crane Wing's twin swords suddenly emitted rays of cold lights. Blow up! Yunshi used his last green hippo's seed to recover his physical strength. When the dark shadow spider's evil eye had stared at Yunshi, he was almost killed, if he hadn't used the green hippo's seed, which he had hidden in his body just in case. The evil eye curse only plundered all of Yunshi's physical strength. His blood had almost frozen at that time. However, that was just the curse's side effect. The most powerful part of the dark shadow spider's evil eye was directly released into Yunshi's soul. The black evil eye put one piece of dead information after another in Yunshi's body within 1/10 of a second, making him fall from the sky, making his whole body scattered and disunited. Pouring kerosene on his body and burning him to ashes. Tying him up on the cross, hanging him in the air, and making him die under the sun. Tying him up and fixing him in concrete, then sink him in the water till he was drowned. Hanging him to death. throwing him into a snowfield and making him die of cold and hypoxia, chopping him into pieces with swords. The dark shadow spider had made 18 death methods to torture Yunshi, to make him fall into the worst nightmares it wove. To most living beings, a near-death experience would become the worst nightmare of their life. Most people couldn't even hold on till the end of the dark shadow spider's first deathly nightmare. Their blood froze, and their lives were taken away. It was hard to recognize which part was reality and which part a dream, and if they failed to distinguish the parts, they would die in the reality and the nightmare at the same time. Once people's brains were fooled into thinking that they had died, then they would really die in the real world. However, the dark shadow spider wouldn't have expected that although Yunshi hadn't had any death experience in reality, but its deadly nightmares were just a piece of cake to him, for he had died in the star's trails countless times. Dying 18 times. That pain wasn't even more painful than what the green hippo had done to him. The damage the dark shadow spider's evil eye had caused Yunshi was actually 0, because he was already used to such since a long time ago. Only the dark shadow evil eye's side effect, which froze Yunshi's blood and drained his life, forced Yunshi to use his last green hippo seed, so that he could restore his energy at the last possible instant. All these things happened just in a second. Wandering between life and death, a new door suddenly opened up to Yunshi in his mind. Quicksilver motion reached perfection. Flying swallow sword reached perfection. Both of the two skills had reached perfection at the same time. They overlapped together, opening the door leading to the God Sword skill for Yunshi. Nothing could be better than a real-life and death battle to force a person to release their full potential. The girl's expectation and prayer. The killing princess's legacy was activated in the blood. Hua Hua, Hua Yu, Xiao Chao, and all the other girls' seeds released their powers for him, to help him reach an unattainable realm. Sky flying sword. Yunshi put one foot on the male sword. Transparent waves emerged around him. Yunshi didn't have the sky flying bloodline, so he couldn't fly in the air like Hua Hua. However, with the crane wings twin sword's help and his boiling blood power, he finally created his own sky flying sword. Speed up. Speed up. Once he started, he couldn't stop, and wasn't ready to stop. Stepping on one of Crane Wing's twin swords, Yunshi turned into a flash of lightning, hovering in the sky. With his full strength, he flew to the dark shadow spider, who was in a debilitating condition after casting its dark shadow evil eye. One transparent halo after another emerged in the air. They displayed deadly rhythms, announcing the dark shadow spider's death. Crane Wing's twin swords crossed in the air. As if they were a pair of poison stingers, they penetrated into the dark shadow spider's compound eyes, splashing its blood in the air. Oh, so the spider had black blood. Yunshi thought in his heart. He had used up his energy. He felt a fit of dizziness, finally couldn't keep flying and heavily fell to the ground. May. May. No, May. Oh, white, and white, and white. Yunshi toppled down onto the summit of the volcano, seeing a lot of warm, snow-white, alluring, and cute bodies. 1, 2, 3, 38. They were all here. Not one less. That was really, really good. Chapter 136, The Scent of Milk. Yunshi smelt a very pleasant scent. It was sweet, soft, and smelt like milk. Unlike Yili's milky odor, it was more mature and richer. He tried to open his eyes, but failed to do this simple action. Oh, right. Yunshi remembered. He overdrew his strength, finally releasing the God Sword skill, Sky Flying Sword, which he had always failed to learn in the past. With Sky Flying Sword and the Crane Wing's twin swords attack power, he finally tore through the dark shadow spider's steel shell, giving it a deadly blow. What happened after that? Had the dark shadow spider died? Had the girls been saved? Where was it now? Master, are you awake? Mayer's voice echoed in Yunshi's mind, finally making him recover a bit from his condition. Mayer, what happened to my body? Yunshi asked his star elf in confusion. Nothing. You are just too weak after overtaxing your strength. You will recover after about 24 hours. Master, you had depleted all of your energy. Unfortunately, the dark shadow spider abandoned its old body. It split itself into a new body and escaped away with its core. Otherwise, you could use its seed to recover yourself. Mayer told Yunshi the result in an apologetic tone. However, its old body has been destroyed. It should have already downgraded from the hero rank and ran to the deep side of the island. It won't be a threat temporarily. After all, there is nothing that it can use to recover itself. Sigh. As he had expected, it wasn't that easy to defeat a hero-ranked being. However, this was still a good result that Yunshi could accept. After that, Yunshi felt his body being lifted up. He could feel a reassuring, soft and resilient cushion on his back. Ah, he heard a familiar voice. It was Huayu. No, she doesn't open her mouth. In that case, I can't feed her anything. Yunshi could feel Huayu's anxiety from her voice. No problem, my fair lady. I know how to solve this problem. You can feed her with your mouth. Yunshi heard Ling Ling's voice from his back. It seemed that they were looking after him. Well. It seems that I have to do that. Was it an illusion? Yunshi felt that Huayu's voice sounded very happy. Cheer up. You can do that. Yunshi felt that the milky smell was getting closer and closer. After a while, he felt the girl's warm lips touched his mouth with the warm milk. Despite Yunshi not being able to open his eyes, he still knew what Huayu was doing. With the warm milk, her small tongue stirred in Yunshi's mouth, sending the milk down Yunshi's throat. Bang! Yunshi's body was still fatigued. Only his heart was pounding faster and faster. The thread between their seeds was rapidly becoming tighter. Yunshi could also feel Huayu's pounding heart. Excitement, agitation, tenderness, expectation, and addiction. Various emotions flowed into Yunshi's heart through the thread. The thread was giving a sweet, curative, instrumental performance. Cough, Yunshi felt that his drained seed was being activated by Huayu's emotions. He slowly opened his eyes, looking at Huayu's pink-white face. She was so nervous that she closed her eyes tighter, so she didn't see that Yunshi had been awakened. Huayu let out a sigh of relief after pouring all the milk into Yunshi's mouth. Although Yunshi just fainted, but his pale face and feeble breathing really scared her. Sorry, if we were stronger at that time, Huayu muttered. She swallowed another sip of milk, trying to feed Yunshi again. Then, she saw Yunshi's wide-opened black eyes and his shy look. Whoa! Huayu instantly blushed. Her face turned from a red apple into a red sun, emitting an attractive temperament. For the first time, Yunshi saw her shy look. She behaved as if she was a kitten who was found secretly eating. It was too cute. Especially when the white milk was still dripping from her mouth. That gave him an indescribable allure. What's the matter? Ling Ling was behind Yunshi, so she didn't see that Yunshi had opened his eyes. She still instigated Huayu, don't be shy. This is just a necessary feeding behavior. Due to the milk in her mouth, Huayu couldn't say anything, but looking at Yunshi's feeble appearance, she showed a determined look on her face. Ling Ling's suggestion was effective. Therefore, she needed to continue, even though she had never done this before. Huayu got up her nerve and kissed Yunshi again. She sent the warm milk and her tongue into his mouth at the same time again. Goo. Goo. Yunshi was forced to swallow the milk. He felt that his exhausted body did obtain a bit of new strength from that. Oh. Oh. The female element is effective. Master, let her feed you. In that case, your recovery time can be greatly reduced. Maya looked at this scene with a contented look. Compared to the milk, Hua Yu's female element was better medicine for Yunshi's recovery. Why do I feel that I'm an abnormal negative character? I'm an upright gentleman. Yunshi retorted his star elf in his mind. Okay, is that enough? May. After feeding Yunshi the milk for 10 times, Hua Yu's face was hotter. If you feel it is enough, blink your eyes once. If you don't feel it is enough, blink your eyes twice. Yunshi strenuously blinked one of his eyes once, signaling her that he didn't need her to feed him again. Even if she did nothing, his body could recover itself after a dozen of hours. However, Yunshi forgot that his body was still uncontrollable now. After the first blink, he uncontrollably blinked again. 1, 2 blinks. Hua Yu felt nervous. Was the sequela of the battle too serious? Not enough. Well, let me feed you some more. The next an hour, Yunshi's body and Hua Yu's body were full of the scent of milk. Chapter 137. Dark Shadow Gems. Thanks to Hua Yu's feeding and her girl element, Yunshi's physical strength finally recovered to an extent that he could open his mouth. Enough. Hua Yu, if Yunshi didn't hear it for himself, he wouldn't believe that the deep, attractive voice was his own voice. What the hell was the great sword maid's legacy? May. Oh, great. Hearing Yunshi's voice, Hua Yu's face brightened up, as if she was soaking in the sun. Her golden hair hung down on Yunshi's face. He could even see the tears in her beautiful eyes. I'm sorry to have worried you. In that moment of life and death, they understood each other's minds. For the girls who were captured by the dark shadow spider, Yunshi risked his life to challenge the hero-ranked monster. For Yunshi, who protected them regardless of danger, the girls also transferred all their powers to protect him. After the dark shadow spider's attack, Mei had become even more important in all the girls' hearts. When Yunshi had released his sky-flying sword, flying to the seemingly unbeatable dark shadow spider, all the Starwings female knights had cried. After defeating the dark shadow spider, Yunshi toppled down to the ground. This scene made all the girls feel worried and cry their hearts out. Fortunately, they finally made sure that Yunshi just fainted due to exhaustion. They finally smiled through tears. The links amongst them were becoming tighter due to the crisis they faced together. Yunshi could feel that the threads between him and the girls were becoming tighter and brighter. At the same time, a lot of girls had broken past their limits during the crisis. Especially when they saw Yunshi toppling down to the ground, 10 girls had upgraded to the second rank at the same time. Now, the Starwings female knights had 2 3-ranked members, a dozen of second-ranked members, and the remaining girls were all at the first rank. Even in the whole god domains, it could be regarded as a super strong knight group now. Is everyone okay? Don't worry, Mei. You saved everyone. That's fine. Yunshi barely opened his mouth. He felt that none of his body parts were in good condition. His muscles were torn due to overexertion. Especially his feet, the most important parts required to release Sky-Flying Sword, had almost lost feeling. The secret of Sky-Flying Sword was to control the air waves under the feet. This was a god sword skill that could let the user fly in the air. Strictly speaking, Yunshi's Sky-Flying Sword was incomplete. He didn't have as much energy as Hua, so he couldn't fly in the sky all by himself. His Sky-Flying Sword was a simulation of Hua's Sky-Flying Sword, based on his Flying Swallow Sword and Quicksilver motion. With the Crane Wing's twin swords flying ability, he was able to step in the air. It looked very similar to Hua's sky-flying sword, but lacked both explosiveness and dexterity. Sky-flying sword, incomplete, one could call Yunxi's strongest sword skill that way. After all, god sword skills weren't something mortals could learn. Half a month ago, Yunxi wasn't even a first-ranked swordsman. It was already a miracle for him to master the incomplete sky-flying sword. Even though it was incomplete, it was still a god sword skill. It had raised Yunxi's battle power to the hero rank within a few seconds so that he could defeat the dark shadow spider. If one didn't have hero-ranked power, they would not defeat a hero-ranked monster. Hua was an exception. One must pay something to control the god sword as a mortal. Yunxi created the embryonic form of his god sword within 3 seconds. Even though he had eaten the green hippo seed, he was still exhausted after the battle. After saying a few words, Yunxi had to close his eyes and fell into deep sleep again. When he opened his eyes again, it was already evening. The scent of milk still lingered in his mouth and on his lips, however, he sensed something different from Huayu's scent. They were Xiao Chao, Ling Ling, and a lot of other girls. Yunxi tried to move his body, then strenuously stood up. Very well. I can move now. Yunxi exercised his arms and legs, letting out a sigh of relief. Looking up, Yunxi found that he was in a cave. Probably being worried about being attacked by the dark shadow spider again, the girls had moved their camp into the cave, which was easy to defend but hard to attack. Bright lights illuminated the originally dim cave. It seemed that the girls had collected a lot of goods and materials from White Lotus whilst he was sleeping. As the strongest weapon of the whole White Lotus sword domain, White Lotus really carried various goods and materials. From temporary tents to various foods, vegetables, and weapons. Even though they had just collected a few items, it was sufficient for them to build a camp. Mei, are you awake? Xiao Chao carried her black iron sword, stepping into the cave from outside. The distance between her footsteps were all the same, as if she had measured them with a ruler. Not only her footsteps, her breathing and the rhythm of her heartbeat were also as calm as an old well. Her spiritual state was already beyond mortal's imagination. Obviously, the battle between the dark shadow spider and Yunxi had stimulated Xiao Chao and Huayu. They grew fast through battle. Huayu went to hunt the spider, and I had just killed several of the spider's avatars, too. We will avenge you. Xiao Chao casually threw several black gems to Yunxi, but her eyes were full of pride, as if she was saying, "Praise me. Praise me." This is, Yunxi looked at the black gems, feeling some scent of deep darkness from them. Huayu says that they are dark shadow gems. They are the spider's life essences. Oh, the biggest gems were taken from the wounds you caused to the spider, Xiao Chao said. She sat beside Yunxi and gazed at him, as if she was a puppy that was waiting for its master's praise. Xiao Chao, you did well. Yunxi smiled and gently stroked her hair. Hum, I will do my best. Mei. Don't die. Chapter 138, For Bread. Rated Battle. 7 days later, a small fort was built in the middle area of the island, in front of the cave on the highest volcano. The fort wall was made of sharpened wooden pikes. There were sharp black thistles and thorns filled in the gaps, and unknown flowers blooming on the pikes. As the saying goes, a sparrow may be small, but it has all the vital organs. The fort the Starwing's female knights built in 7 days had 3 layers for the defense system. Besides, they also drilled a deep well, which perfectly solved their water issues. For the first time on the island, human civilization started to be built. This day, in the center of the small fort, the girls were having a daily match, battle for the butter bread. In some sense, it was also a rated battle amongst the girls. The prize was maize butter bread, which could effectively replenish their energy. As the baker, Yunxi didn't need to take part in their battle, and because Mumu was too young, she could get butter bread without fighting. As for the other girls, they had to fight each other to strive for their butter bread. Yunxi would make about 50 rolls of butter bread every day, and the girls would decide the distribution based on battle rating. Normally, the leader, Huayu, and the deputy leader, Xiao Chao, would seize the first place and the second place, and the other girls strived for the places from the 3rd to the 10th. In Yunxi's eyes, it was just a game-like battle, but to the girls, it was their favorite recreational activity on the boring island. On the 7th day, almost all the girls had upgraded to the 2nd rank. For butter bread. For my tongue. For our cute May. The girls shouted slogans, bursting with enthusiasm and great potential. The barrier between the 1st rank and the 2nd rank had been unable to stop them. Even in the countries of Western God's domain, a knight group whose members were all at the 2nd rank could be regarded as a strong force. It was hard to believe that Starwing's female knights was formed by a group of girls, who hadn't even started their study lives in Sword Palace. Now, the girls who were fighting for the 3rd place and the 4th place were Ling Ling and Mei Lan from the 2 camps of Starwing's female knights. Ling Ling was born in a decadent noble family. She was one of Hua Yu's subordinates. Mei Lan was born in a civilian family. She was one of Xiao Chao's loyal fans. Both of them were Hua Yu and Xiao Chao's assistants. Amongst all the girls, their powers were only slightly inferior to Hua Yu and Xiao Chao. Ling Ling's sword skill was a fencing named flower fencing. It was a dueling sword skill from the royals in Western God's domain. Unlike Hua Yu's holy crossed sword, it required high skill to learn it, and was a sword skill suited to aristocratic ladies. Her sword had a round handguard and a slender, long blade. It abandoned its slash ability but increased its stab ability to the limit. Compared to Ling Ling's sword, Mei Lan's sword was much more ordinary. As a civilian, she didn't have the money to buy an expensive, soft sword like Ling Ling's, but was using a standard military sword. Her sword skill also biased towards actual combat, straight and narrow. The 2 girls were having a fierce fight. Ling Ling's sword skill was slightly better. Her soft sword often attacked Mei Lan from unexpected angles. As for Mei Lan, her sword skill had inherited a part of Xiao Chao's combat skill, not very excellent, but also flawless. The dark shadow spider should have died. Under the stage, Hua Yu put the last dark shadow gem in Yunxi's hand. Yes. We found no traces of the spider in the forest, Xiao Chao said in a confident tone. In order to avenge Mei, Xiao Chao and Hua Yu cooperated with each other and cleaned out the whole forest. They had killed almost all the spiders in the forest and had collected over 10 dark shadow gems. Even if there were still a few little spiders in the forest, they wouldn't be a threat anymore. Thank you. Yunxi took the dark shadow gem and pinched it. Ding! The dark gem turned into powder, then was absorbed by Yunxi's maid uniform. Yunxi accidentally found out that the killing princess's maid's uniform could absorb these dark shadow gems. When Xiao Chao had handed over the dark shadow gem to him, he had felt that the maid's uniform suddenly had a special desire to swallow it. He naturally understood that the maid's uniform could eat the dark shadow gem to strengthen itself. After feeding all the dark shadow gems to the maid's uniform, Yunxi found that the uniform became more gorgeous. Even the ribbons on the skirt's corner had become glossier. These magic clothes he had inherited from the unknown killing princess was eager for these dark-type gems. Mei, your maid's uniform is becoming more beautiful. Xiao Chao looked at Yunxi with her sparkling eyes. After that, Xiao Chao had decided to kill as many dark shadow spiders as she could to collect more dark shadow gems for Yunxi. It said that the killing princess abhorred dark creatures, so the legend is true. Hua Yu stroked the maid's uniform and remembered the legend. Yunshi embarrassedly looked at the two girls beside him and the girls who were fighting for his butter bread on the stage. Was it his illusion? Why did he feel that after the dark shadow spider's attack, the girls had become more intimate with him? May, can you make more bread? The girls finally let Mumu wear white socks and shoes. She pulled the corner of Yunshi's clothes, looking at him with a pathetic look. Little girls shouldn't eat too much. You will become fat. Yunshi pinched Mumu's mouth and wondered in his heart, Mumu is so thin, why does she eat more than Huayu? Judging from their bodies, it should be Huayu who needs more nutrition. Chapter 139, Eye of the Storm. Across the forest and a part of the swamp the girls hadn't been before, in the deepest point of the volcano cave, a large spider nest was formed. A dark shadow spider that was about 3 meters long and had 4 eyes, was hanging upside down from a large web, looking at the prey captured by its avatars with a dissatisfied look. Judging from the various sizes of prey, its avatars had done very well. They had even captured a python which was over 17 meters long. The python was one of the top predators that were at the top of the food chain on the island. It never thought that someday whilst sleeping, it would be caught in spider threads and fail to move an inch, and see several small spiders dragging it into a dark cave underground. It had suffered numerous privations along the way. Hiss! With a cruel hiss, the spider's sharp leg stabbed into the python's head, starting to draw its brains and body fluid. After a few seconds, the python had become only a piece of snake skin. In addition to the python's skin, there were also several ferocious beasts' bodies on the large spider web. Most of them were only remains of their skins and furs. After absorbing the python's flesh and blood, the dark shadow spider's body became a little larger. Looking at itself, the spider expressed a resentful look. Yunshi's sword really hurt it. He had not only eliminated its core, the body part that released its supernatural power, but he had broken its life element. As a hermaphrodite, it had to abandon its male part and barely let its female part escape into the forest, but it was still hunted by Xiao Chao and Huayu. Finally, its female part also sustained a fatal injury. It was forced to split again, into a new body which only had 25% of its original power. It then ran to the most remote area on the island. If it wasn't a void creature and its body was totally different from common animals within White Lotus Sword domain, it would have died under Yunshi's attack. Now, it had only a weak new body and 3 avatars. Its combat power had reduced to 10% of its original power, even after it had eaten almost all the large creatures it could find around the cave. Revenge. Kill. Enemy. Remembering who had made it lose half of its body, the dark shadow spider opened its mouth, screeching as if it had gone mad. Once a dark shadow spider lost its male part, it couldn't produce offspring again. It was doomed to live completely alone after losing its male part. Its hate was irreconcilable. Its angry scream echoed within the cave, around and around, for a long time. The 10th day after White Lotus dropped from the sky, Huayu, Xiao Chao, and Yunshi sat together with a serious look. Something is wrong. According to my calculation, rescuers should have come, Huayu said, sharing her worry with Xiao Chao and Yunshi. The sword domain should have known that something had happened to White Lotus. 10 days have passed. That was enough time for them to report the accident to the Sky Sword God's domain master. However, we still haven't seen any rescuers. Maybe the situation is worse than we imagined. Yunshi and Xiao Chao looked at each other. They were just civilians. Naturally, they didn't know this. Although they were trapped on the island, but they had the materials from White Lotus and the tropical island was fertile, the pressure of their survival had been reduced after building the temporary camp. The materials they had collected would help them survive on the island for at least 3 months. So, what's the reason that makes the rescuers unable to come here? Yunshi asked. He also felt something was wrong because the seeds told him that Hua Hua and the twin witches' location hadn't changed at all from the beginning. They could fly. Theoretically, they should have found this island by following traces of White Lotus's debris. However, their seeds hadn't moved from the first day they fell from the sky. I have two guesses. The first, they sent rescuers but they are all being stopped by that thing. Maybe they are fighting in the sky as we speak. Speaking about that thing, Hua-yuk shook her head. If that was the truth, they shouldn't expect any rescue. After all, an 8th-ranked monster was far beyond ordinary people's range. The rescuers wouldn't have any chance to defeat it. Why did such a monster appear in White Lotus Sword Domain? It's too strange. The second guess is that we are not at our original location. Maybe this island is far away from the place where we encountered the monster. Hua-yu lifted her second finger. This was her main guess. According to the position of the sunset and the sea breeze's direction of movement, Hua-yu calculated and drew an inconceivable conclusion. This island wasn't on White Lotus's airline, but at a place that was 10,000 kilometers away. In the whole of White Lotus Sword Domain, none of the noble families had been to this place, and no one knew what was in this place as if it was a natural forbidden area since the dawn of White Lotus Sword Domain. In legends, there were countless terrible dark currents in the sky and in the sea in this area, and any time and anywhere, this area would have devastating storms. Even if it was a floating ship like White Lotus, once it was caught in any of the storms, it wouldn't have any chance to fly away. This corresponded to the tropical storm happened 10 days ago. Hua-yu remembered that when the storm appeared, the sky and earth were covered with darkness. She remembered her fear when she saw the storm sweep through the sky. Even a hero-rank person wouldn't be able to do anything in the face of such a terrible natural disaster. If the storm hadn't suddenly disappeared just like it had suddenly emerged, she couldn't imagine what a dire situation the girls on the island would have faced. Storm Sea. Probably this is where we are. This island should be in the middle of the Storm Sea, Hua-yu said and sketched a map on the ground. It was a weird map which looked like a giant monster's single eye. From generation to generation, the noble families of White Lotus Sword Domain always warned their descendants not to come to this area, Eye of the Storm. Chapter 140, The Tale of the Storm, Eye of the Storm. How can it be possible? Yun Shi and Xiao Chao wore a surprised look after they heard that taboo name. The Demon's Sea. The Abyss in Hell. The place no one returns from. It was the most mysterious area in the middle of White Lotus Sword Domain. Even ordinary people had also heard its existence. Eye of the Storm. It was said that if you looked down from the sky, only this area was covered in darkness. It was an area of the sea that was covered by countless storms. Many hero-ranked beings had tried to explore this area of the sea in the past, but most of them had lost their way before they had ventured deep into this area. This area had swallowed a lot of people's lives. Many people believed that there was a terrible monster living within this area and that mortals should never come to this area. This was the most frightening forbidden area in the whole White Lotus Sword Domain. Even the ship, White Lotus, also specifically kept a distance from this area in the past, because no one could predict when the overwhelming black storm would come. No one can return from the eye of the storm, was an old saying spread within White Lotus Sword Domain. It accurately described the weird area's properties. Were they in that legendary forbidden area? Remember the hero-ranked adventure team I talked about before? They were eliminated within the surrounding region of Eye of the Storm. Unfortunately, we have gone deeper than they did, probably in the middle area. Hua-yu didn't want to acknowledge it, but that was the most likely truth. After all, who would think that White Lotus would fly off the airline route and crash in the most dangerous area in the whole Sword Domain? This was a real dead zone that may have indescribable monsters. Maybe the monster who could even swallow the hero-ranked adventure team was on this seemingly common island. In legends, White Lotus's secret treasure is in the eye of the storm, Hua Yu murmured. She remembered an unsubstantiated old tale. White Lotus Sword Domain was just a common lower-level sword domain, but it had a rare, secret treasure. No one knew what the secret treasure was. Someone said that it was a matchless weapon, another said that it was a supreme sword skill, and yet another said that it was a flag that could dominate all beings. The only thing that could be confirmed was that the secret treasure did exist, because there was a trace of the secret treasure's shadow in Sword Palace. It was said that only when the sword domain was in danger, would the master of White Lotus Sword Domain use it. As for what the real secret treasure was, no one knew. People only knew that once upon a long time, when Sky Sword God's domain was just born in the void, the secret treasure had appeared in White Lotus Sword Domain. After it released its earth-shaking power, it disappeared with not the least trace to be found. It was said that someone realized the rules of the world after seeing the secret treasure's shadow in Sword Palace, and finally became a Sky Sword. It was said that when the Sky Sword was still immortal, he was born in White Lotus Sword Domain and left his legacy in the Sword Domain. He was Yunhai. Before he became a Sky Sword, people called him Yunhai, the Sword Master. He was the only Sky Sword who was born in a lower-level sword domain. Due to this, every time Sword Palace began to organize their entrance test, there were always a lot of geniuses across the Star Bridge, coming to take part in their test from various sword domains. Their goal was the secret treasure's shadow in Sword Palace. At the same time, every few years, some hero-ranked people would form a team to explore the most terrible forbidden area in White Lotus Sword Domain, the Eye of the Storm. Their goal was very specific: come to search for the legendary secret treasure, because all the other areas in White Lotus Sword Domain had been searched. Only the Eye of the Storm hadn't been thoroughly searched. Year in and year out, one group after another came to the Eye of the Storm, but most of them couldn't even get through the surrounding region. A few people entered the inner area, but none of them returned. Theoretically, legend-ranked beings couldn't enter White Lotus Sword Domain unless they wanted to destroy it. In that case, the strongest person that could go to explore the Eye of the Storm was still at the hero rank. After many hero-ranked adventure team were eliminated in the Eye of the Storm, almost no one dared to challenge this dead zone again. The Eye of the Storm was the only forbidden area in White Lotus Sword Domain. If this island is in the deepest area of the Eye of the Storm, unless the Master of Sky Sword God's domain comes to change the Sword Domain's rules to allow legend-ranked people to enter this area, we'd better give up to waiting for rescue, Hua Yu analyzed with a depressed look. She felt too hopeless, so she only told Yun Shi and Xiao Chao this cruel news. Are you sure that we are in the Eye of the Storm? Yun Shi took a deep breath. His eyes didn't look depressed, but became more bright. Yes, Hua Yu looked at Mei and was enchanted with his determined look. What a pair of beautiful eyes. In her black pupils, it was comforting enthusiasm and confidence, as if being trapped in the Eye of the Storm was just a miniature disaster in her eyes. Even though she was facing the Eye of the Storm, the dead zone which had swallowed one hero-ranked being after another, her eyes were still saying that she would never give up. In that case, I think that we should make a long-term plan. Yun Shi had to prepare for their future after knowing what cruel situations they would be facing. Of course he wouldn't give up, nor did he feel desperate. Compared to be hunted by the white holy dragon sent by his 4 overlord ex-girlfriends, what was the Eye of the Storm? It was nothing. If he couldn't even escape from this place, how would he escape from his ex-girlfriends and their apostles? He must become stronger and stronger. Since it was very likely that the terrible monster who could even eliminate a hero-ranked adventure team was on the island, then he would get touch with it in his next star trial. In his next star trial, he would find out what the most frightening thing in the Eye of the Storm was and face it. You're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.